voice bits again or not? And I've just changed I put the Herbalife thing in my second voiceover. If that's okay. So I can read that to not have to get my it'd be quite good. Can we see you? See the monitor? Will the monitor work for this one? No, fine. What were my words pretty much to time? Okay, fine, that's great. I'm not like that.
Is that okay? Just look. See those little
Well, what a setting we're being treated to for the first PTO Pro Am here on Venice Beach in California. In just a short while, some of the world's top triathletes will race Olympic distance triathlon relay alongside some Challenge Athletes Foundation athletes and some special guests too.
I'm not catching fades anymore. Gotta keep my hands clean when they come for the board. Keep it smooth like a dawn, making moves in the dark. Cause I learned how to swim in the pool full of sharks. Now they coaches, cause they can't read all his motions. How the kid never switch codes, but he code switch focus. Staring down your team with a frozen, ice cold look that can end the summer solstice. Cause I'm the kingpin. Top dog, top flow, boss mode. I'm the kingpin. Top dog, top flow, boss mode. I'm the kingpin. Showstopper, top dog, top five. I'm the kingpin.
The iconic Venice Beach, home to the famous Muscle Beach gym, popular with fitness fanatics and tourists alike who flock to this golden stretch of sand and its diverse offerings. Formerly a hangout of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the bodybuilding days, this unique beach town known for its bohemian spirit really does have it all, which is why over 10 million tourists flock to this popular hotspot in California each year. And today it plays host the Herbalife24 Triathlon Los Angeles and the first PTO Pro Am, of course, which we're all here for and very excited for. And that's Venice Beach, of course, where everything kicks off in just a short while. And this, downtown LA, is where everything will come to a head in a couple of hours' time, I'm going to say. My name is Rachel Stringer. I'm very excited that alongside me today we have Olympic bronze medalist in the triathlon from Rio 2016, Vicky Holland. I mean, Vicky, what a setting we are being treated to. I feel very lucky that we're here in LA for this new event, the PTA Pro Am. It's the first of its kind for them, isn't it?
It is. It's the first time we've had an event like this, and I'd love to see more of this as we go on, combining the Challenge Athlete Foundation athletes with the pros on an iconic course. Great weather we're expecting today. It's going to be a treat for us.
Yeah, I mean, the weather yesterday was about 33 degrees, so it's going to be a scorcher down here for the athletes, so I think they'll be grateful if they're on the swim first up. But let's just talk then about some of the superstar athletes you'll be getting to have a little look at a bit later on, because we have some absolute superstars, don't we, from the world of the PTO?
We do. We've got some of the top-ranked athletes in the world here, not to mention Lionel Sanders, of course, second place at last weekend's Ironman World Championships. We've also got fourth place on the female side from the same race, Sky Munch. We've got some real stars here today.
Yeah, I mean, it was only last week. Do you think they're going to be feeling it a little bit in the legs? I know they're on leg 2, aren't they, on the bike, of course, but still, you know, will that be a factor?
Well, yes, they're probably going to be a little bit tired, but these guys are the top athletes in the world. They're not going to let that get in their way, and they're going to be so motivated to do it for their team. So I'm not sure it'll be too much of a factor.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that then. It's the relay, like I mentioned at the top of the show, and that's because on the swim we have the Challenge Athlete Foundation athletes, and these are super special. We have some of the who's who, don't we, of Paralympic athletes here. I mean, Vicky, they're so inspirational. We're going to obviously learn a little bit more about them later, but tell me about a couple that have really caught your attention.
Yeah, we have Alyssa Seeley. She is Paralympic gold medalist, 2 times gold medalist. She's really a star of the para-triathlon scene. She's here today. We've also got Rudy Tolson Garcia. He's actually doing the run leg later today. He's multiple Paralympic medalist. 4 Olympics he's been to, 4 Paralympics. Amazing.
I mean, I think I've lost count of how many medals these guys have between them. It's a lot, let me tell you that. Obviously, you mentioned our PTO superstars as well. Lionel Sanders is one of them, and he inspires so many people. And one in particular is Paul Felder. Check this one out.
For sure, the thing that really got me noticing the sport was definitely stumbling upon my man, Lionel Sanders, Mr. No Limits himself, because the workouts that this guy was doing is what fascinated me. I couldn't believe the numbers, and at the time I didn't even really know much about these numbers, but I'm like, you're running what pace in what degrees. It was the Arizona run where he does like a threshold or a tempo run, and it's like 110 degrees. And I remember the cameraman's like, so what are we about to do? And he's like, something stupid.
What are we doing today?
Doing something stupid for the camera.
And he's got his shades on. He's got his headphones. I even went and found those headphones that he was wearing. And he just absolutely murders this workout out in like the desert of Arizona on this blacktop road on this trail. And I was like, that's cool. And then I started getting into the sport. So Lionel is how I found it, and YouTube, really.
Well, it was Lionel Sanders' YouTube channel, wasn't it, that Paul Felder kind of stumbled across, he said, and just went, I want to take part in this sport. Vicky, just tell me, obviously he was ranked 6th in the UFC back in the day and has transitioned seamlessly, I'm going to say, into this sport. I mean, how is that, from your opinion, obviously being a pro yourself and knowing how difficult this sport is?
Well, people do come into triathlon from all different kinds of backgrounds, and he's obviously an elite performer. He's got a real competitive attitude about everything. He wants to be the best in his age group, at the least, when he comes into triathlon. And I think we're going to see him fighting today to be the best on that run leg.
Well, I want to see if he gets a PB and does something stupid on that run leg a little bit later on. Well, let's have a look at the third and final member of Team Sanders, as we're calling it. Let's have a look, a little bit more detail on Haven Shepherd.
So I was born in Vietnam to 2 parents that had an affair and had me. And in Vietnam, women can't divorce husbands. So they decided to commit a family suicide. And they strapped bombs onto themselves and they held me. And all the damage was done to my legs. And then that happened when I was 16 months old. And then I was later adopted when I was 18 months old. Lionel Sanders, I heard I was tagging him off. I don't know what I could say. Like, my mom read it off to me, and she was like, okay, you're in this relay. And she said his name, and I was like, excuse me? So I feel like I have to swim very, very fast to get him off to what he's going to do, and hopefully we win. But it's just so special that I've been asked to do this. I mean, after coming home from Tokyo from the Paralympics, I thought, wow, I did it all. But I got invited to come here, and I was like, wow, there's so much more out there for me.
Well, it's a bit of a Lionel Sanders fan club there, isn't it? Haven's super excited to be on his team, as is Paul. So, I mean, that is a team to watch, Vicky. Would you say so?
I think they're going to be a really strong team, but I've really got my eyes on Daniel Beckegaard's team as well. I think they're going to be so tough to beat, with Alyssa Seeley leading them off, and also Heather Fell, 2008 silver medalist in modern pentathlon, bringing them home on the run. I think they're going to be the team to beat today.
Yeah, well, 6 super strong teams, of course. But let's check then down at Venice Beach and see how things are going, getting on down there. I mean, Vicky, tell me about it. What time are we on? We've got about 7 minutes until 6 a.m. here in LA. You know, not long now to go. What would you be doing with 7 minutes to go?
I think with about this time frame left, I would have finished my main warm-up. And now, because it's still quite fresh, the sun's coming up, but it's still quite fresh outside, just trying to keep myself as warm, focused as possible, either set up my bike or spoken to the next relay member that I was tagging off to, and really now just trying to think about my own processes in my mind. I think I would be trying to stay calm, taking a few deep breaths, and reminding myself that mostly I do this because I love it.
Well, yeah, it's about that, of course, isn't it? It's trying to have a bit of fun as well, so we can see them. They're all down there on Venice Beach. The sun is just starting to rise now, guys. About an hour ago, it was pitch black down here, Vicky, wasn't it? And we were going, is it going to be light when they go out? It obviously is. A few waves there as well to contest with, but that's just part and parcel of triathlon, isn't it? So let's just bring you up to speed then on our 6 PTO Pro Am relay teams then. We've mentioned a couple already. Team Sanders has caught our attention, as has Team Beckegaard. But let's have a look. You've got Team Long there, Team Chura, Team Monch, and Team Jackson. So we've got 3 male PTO athletes and then 3 females as well. You mentioned Beckegaard. I had my eye on Sanders, but let's have a look at Team Long as well. You can't discount Sam Long, can you? Yo, yo, yo. We'll have to start with that if any of you are familiar with his YouTube channel. I mean, again, a force we reckon with, I guess, a 70.3 as well. Obviously, he got silver medalist there in the World Champs in 2021.
He's a phenomenal athlete, and he also raced last weekend at the Ironman World Championships as well. So they're all on quite a level playing field with having that race in their legs. All 3 of those guys, really strong cyclists, so it's going to be close.
Yeah, well, Team Long in particular is going to be one to watch because on the run, they have another athlete, Rudy Garcia. Tolson will chat more about him in a short while. But we mentioned there the shots of Venice Beach. That's where things are going to start in a few moments' time. And then they'll end here in downtown LA. But let's find out exactly how they get here with one of our commentators for today, John Gooden. Well, Vicky, of course, I want your thoughts on that course. Is that quite a difficult, challenging course, or is that one that you'd like to get stuck in on?
Oh, I'd love to have a go, mostly because it's so iconic. We're in such an iconic city, starting down at Venice Beach. As the sun rises, it seems quite sort of poetic. It's lovely to get in that open water in the sea with a little bit of those waves. Will be a bit of a challenge for some of our athletes, I think. The bike course got a few bumps in there to give a little challenge to our PTO professionals, and then the run to run around these streets of downtown LA. Hopefully the crowds pack the streets and really support our athletes on the way.
Are you jealous that you're not down at Venice Beach and here with me instead, or are you quite happy being here on the commentary team this time out?
Oh, I think it's going to be brilliant to view the race, to talk about the race with you here today. A little bit fresh at the moment, so maybe I'm doing better here with you today.
Well, let's quickly chat about the relay format as well. Obviously, you're well versed in mixed relays. Slightly different here this time out because we've only got, obviously, swim, bike and run leg for each of the athletes. But tell me, I guess, about tactics there. Will they have come together as a team to try and figure out how they're going to play this one out?
Well, I mean, they should have done. In my mind, as a real competitor, I would have been sat down with my team and talking that through. But I think one of the most important things to mention is that relays really bring the best out of you. You always find a few extra % when you're not just racing for yourself, but when you're racing for your team. We already saw that with the Collins Cup last year in Slovakia. Athletes were really giving everything, digging so deep just because they're racing for their team.
Well, you can see that if you check out their social medias. They've been posting pictures all weekend with their teammates, so I'm sure they're very excited to get started on this PTO Pro Am, as are we, and as are our two commentators who are standing by just a few meters away. I can actually see them out the corner of my eye. We have John Gooden and Barry Shepley.
And then the run to run around.
the Herbalife24 Triathlon, Los Angeles. And now we have a 3-minute gap to our next wave, elite females. In the neon green swim caps, our pro elite female division heading into the water in just a few moments. There are males in the water, as you can see, the Pacific Ocean, a welcoming sight on this Sunday morning as we are ready to go.
He's about, yeah, wow.
He's gonna have a big lead.
Oh my God.
As you enter our swim start here and you approach the inflatable, do not cross that portion right below the inflatable. That is the timing mat. You do not want to prematurely trigger your timing chip. So make sure.
Well, good morning, Los Angeles. Good morning, good
Our next wave will be the neon green swim caps of the elite female division, and then a short 5-minute gap till we introduce our teams from the PTO Los Angeles Pro Am, the inaugural edition taking place right here in Venice Beach at the Herbalife24 Triathlon, Los Angeles. As you can see, our fellow triathletes are assembling next to their corresponding numbers there and swim caps, getting ready to go.
Wrapped up like
What an amazing day. You're going to be pounding the pavement through so many iconic locations throughout the great city of Los Angeles. Beginning with a nice brisk swim in the Pacific Ocean. Well, what an amazing day to be here at the Herbalife24 Triathlon, Los Angeles.
bathrooms if you need to go to the bathrooms. They're located at the LA Convention Center. And you're going to walk past the transition trick curve, past Georgia Avenue, and they're right there on the street.
About 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds.
Unparalleled nutritional support. No matter what level you're at,
5, 4, 3, 2, go! Our females into the water. There they go. A very important note. I know you're excited as you approach this swim inflatable here, but you will see a plastic mat. It's buried underneath the sand right here. Do not. Head towards the swim inflatable. You just want to make sure that you give yourself a little space to see a little piece of meat. this third edition of the Herbalife24 Triathlon Los Angeles, adding this new element, the PTO Los Angeles Pro Am. What a great day to enter the water here at Venice Beach. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to our teams. With our first bib number of 1, we have from the Challenge Athletes Foundation, Haven Shepherd, a truly amazing athlete bringing it to the shores here at Venice. Her teammate from the PTO currently has a ranking of number 3, Lionel Sanders. And wrapping it up with the career 17 victories, 10 by knockout, UFC fighter Paul Felder. Bib number 2 is headed up by Challenge Athletes Foundation athlete Emily Gray. Sam Long from the PTO with a ranking of 8, and from the Challenge Athletes Foundation, Rudy Garcia. Bib number 3, Challenge Athlete Foundation athlete Alyssa Seeley. PTO athlete with a world ranking of number 4, Daniel Bakkegaard. And Olympian and GTN presenter, Heather Fell. Bib number 4, Halo Lettenberger from the Challenge Athlete Foundation. And with a PTO ranking of 65, Haley Chura. And another phenomenal athlete of the Challenge Athlete Foundation, Roderick Sewell. Bib number 5, Challenge Athlete Foundation, Jamal Hill. PTO ranking number 7, Sky Munch. Tailing it up, Dr. Kit Bradley, Herbalife Nutrition Chief Medical Officer. And last but not least, bib number 6, Challenge Athlete Foundation, starting it off, Chris Hammer. From the PTO with a ranking of 14, Heather Jackson. And Challenge Athlete Foundation's Willie Stewart on bib number 6. And with that, I will give you a 10-second countdown as we get ready to make it official. Here we go with the PTO Los Angeles Pro Am. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's officially here. PTO Los Angeles Pro Am. What an amazing sight to behold here on the shores of Venice Beach. We are underway in the PTO.
Want somebody on that side of you?
Oh yeah, that's the energy I like to see. We'll get some energy going this morning.
Go in there and I'm like this, wave. So is there any good fight?
Well, the athletes are out there then on the 1500-metre swim. And let's check in with one of those on Team Jackson. It's Chris Hammer. Let's find out more about his story.
I was born with one hand. I don't know what happened. I never really cared to even ask, or I don't think my parents know why I was born this way. And it's had no impact on how I lived my life. I started running in 2000. I ran collegiately, ran post-collegiately. I was super apprehensive to pursue para sport at first. I didn't consider myself a para athlete. I considered myself just a regular elite athlete. And it wasn't until one day I was at the track at the Olympic Training Center, and I'm just tying my shoes, and one of my para track teammates, he's a below the knee amputee, he's watching me and he says, "Wow, that's amazing." Like, what's amazing? Just tying my shoes? You can sprint faster than me and you have one leg. And that's when I kind of realized parasport's not about being defined by what you can't do, it's about being defined by what you can do. Triathlon's a crazy sport because so much can go wrong for not just you, but also for your opponents. So you're always in the race. I've had races where I dropped my bike chain because I didn't shift well, so I have to get off my bike, I have to put the chain back on and get going again. And when stuff like that happens, the sports psych phrase that one of my professors taught me was, don't get stuck in the suck. Things suck sometimes, and that's okay, but just don't get stuck there. You have to move past it. You have to have that mindset that you're always in the race until you cross that finish line. There's a lot going on in my life right now. I have a job, I have a family, I'm a student, and then on top of all that, I'm a Team USA athlete. And what's been really hard and rewarding is trying to balance all that and not let any of those responsibilities fall by the wayside. It's easier said than done, but you got to find that balance in your life, because that's going to be what allows you to be the best you that you can be.
Well, I love hearing about all the athlete stories, of course. We're going to be bringing you so many more of that throughout today. And I'm joined by a very special athlete as well next to me. I'm still going to call you an athlete. Amy van Dijken-Ruin, of course, 6 times Olympic champion.
Yes.
From Atlanta, obviously, in '96 and in 2000 as well. I mean, you're a bit of a heroine, aren't you?
No, I
Yes,
am
you
definitely
are.
not. These people are heroines for sure, not me.
But you're now obviously working with the Challenge Athlete Foundation.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that story, because I just obviously spoke about you there as Olympic champion.
Right. Yeah, so I was an Olympic athlete, and I was injured after my career. I was injured almost 8 years ago, and since then I've been doing stuff with Challenge Athletes Foundation, and what they do for us is just spectacular. I just got a brand new mountain bike hand cycle.
I heard.
It is amazing, and I'm a little crazy. I'm gonna be honest with you. The paint's a little scratched at this point.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about kind of, I guess, how you actually got involved with them in the first place. Obviously, it was back in 2014.
Yep.
And I guess, how did you find out about them? Obviously, been going now for 29 years. Their 30th anniversary next year, which we're all very excited about.
Right, so I knew about them before because of the Paralympic movement. They help a lot of Paralympians get their limbs, get their chairs. So I knew about them, and then I did an interview with Bob Babbitt, and he said, why don't you just sign up for a grant if you want a bike so bad? I'm like, you think I could get it? And I ended up getting it, and I was so excited. I still get chills when I talk about it.
And tell me a little bit more about the bike then. You kind of just mentioned it, and Bob was telling me about it yesterday as well. What's it allowed you to be able to do?
So I used to be that person where I would go out and hike every morning, and I lost that ability. And so now I can get on my bike, go behind the mountains again, and see nature. It has given me everything back, so I am so thankful.
Yeah, and let's just speak a little bit more about the athletes who are taking part in the relay today. I mean, you know, what does it mean for them to be a part of this? We heard from Haven Shepherd a little bit earlier, and she went, I'm on Team Lionel Sanders. She was just in awe of what she was getting to do. She obviously went to the Olympics last summer, and she said, I thought that was as good as it gets, and now I'm here.
Right. This is so cool. I mean, all the athletes are so excited. Last night we were getting all the teams together in their pictures, and this is so neat. And it was nice to see at the start all of the, you know, disabled athletes out there, and they're swimming, they're running and biking the same course that these able-bodied athletes are doing. So for them, this is really big. So we're glad to be out here.
Yeah, totally. Well, super happy to have you down here as well, Amy. And I'm sure we'll be out and about on the course, and we'll get your thoughts as well.
Perfect.
As the event progresses. But for now, let's go back to that swim with John and Barry.
bike. He's borrowed an aero helmet.
That's Riddle out of the water right there.
Riddle's out first.
Yeah, so we were not overly surprised to see that. It was expectations. Look at that beautiful sun coming up on the beach right there, 1830. So looking over the shoulder. And again, remember, this is a non-drafting format today. So some of the athletes will have raced in both the Olympic format where you get on the wheel of another athlete, but in this particular format, you've got to leave 20 meters. That's a lot of gap all the way back into town.
And if you're Jamie Riddle, who's not on a TT bike, who's on this road bike, borrowed gear as well, and he's used to the non-draft format, if he's out there by himself, this is going to be a challenging ride for him.
Well, I have seen anywhere from 1.5 to 3 minute difference between a road bike and a tri-bike. Now, having said that, anybody who's watched Taylor Knibb race in the last couple of years, she's been on a road bike doing her magic. So it's what you're comfortable on, but generally if you get a tri-bike set up, the wheels are set up just a little bit differently, the aero position that you can get in, maybe on a disc wheel, etc. As we're just coming through. Here come the mass men coming out at about the 1930 mark. Lagerström will be into that group just coming out of the water. There's Daniel Pimento from Brazil just coming through as well. So we've got some of the major players now just coming out of the water together.
There's Gonzalez from Mexico.
Yeah, Olympian.
Rodrigo Gonzalez, you were talking to me about him yesterday. High hopes for him today.
I remember him making the team for the Olympic Games in Rio. He made the spot on the very final day, so no question about it. He's in there, one of those serious athletes. Look at him run. There we've already got our leaders, and that looks like Eric Lagerström just heading out right there with the disc wheel. So we'll see whether or not Eric, who's got a lot of experience racing at this distance.
Well, as these guys come through T1, we're going to go back out to the water and check in with our Pro Am athletes. This is the back of the field.
Well, the white cap is, I think, Jamel Hall just out there. Again, there's different colored caps, so just if you see an orange, that's Emily Gray, yellow for Seeley.
Pink for Lettenberger.
Yeah, and a silver as well for Chris Hammer, and we would anticipate Hammer is probably moving up close to the front end of this race. So we're looking at the back end right now, and you can see it's much calmer there, but eventually those same athletes are going to have to go back through that surf getting back into shore.
Yeah, so it looks like we've got Jamal Hill and Alyssa Seeley in picture right now, and they are at the back of the pack. So some work to be done there for their teammates. When they get through T1, there will be a changeover on the beach you might see. Hopefully we'll get pictures for you of a handover of the timing chip that the guys will then take into T1 before they mount their bicycles.
About 54, 55 minutes has been the kind of fastest bike splits that we've seen on this course. It'll be interesting to see with Sam Long and Lionel Sanders today, when they're only having to do the bike, what they're able to do.
Well, I had an interesting chat with Lionel Sanders actually yesterday, where I said to him about, oh, that's Emily Gray looking like I'm getting reports of her unofficially being in fourth right now. But Lionel had a conversation with Sam. I made the error of saying, Lionel, you know, it was a tough weekend for you last weekend. You know, you're just going to get a little spin out there. And he said,
not.
Heck no, that is not for me. I'm a professional athlete. After a few days, I was recovered. I put in a good body of work this week as well. And when he was having a conversation with Sam Long, I think Sam was under the impression that it was going to be a nice ride. Well, Lionel said he was going to try and put down something close to 400 watts. He wants to break a record out here today. So some mind games going on. I said, well, that's certainly going to be playing on Sam's mind when his head hits the pillow. He said, yep, for sure.
Sam's a competitive guy. He's not going to let things go easy for sure. And one of the things about Lionel, I watched him do an Ironman in Copenhagen and then literally 5 days later win his Collins Cup race. You know, and that is literally 5 days after an Ironman, winning a very difficult PTO, Collins race. So there's no question about it. Lionel Sanders comes to play every single day, no question.
Comes to battle. Like, the guy is built different.
I've known him since he was 14 years of age. He's had that same competitive spirit literally from as a young teenager. It has never changed. If anything, it's gotten even more intense into his 30s.
But what's that like as a coach? Because sometimes the amount of work that goes in, especially full distance, you've got to rein it in. But just taking a closer look there, we have Lettenberger. Lovely stroke there gliding through the water.
She swims at Rice University, so, you know, this is a major U.S. swimming school. How impressive. Now we're taking a look here at, I think that's Chris Hammer.
Chris Hammer, yeah. Number 6 cap.
So he's really worked on his swimming up in Phoenix at the U.S. Training Center. And an impressive guy. I mean, to be on 4 NCAA teams, you know, is just incredible. And he's the first athlete to ever get, para-athlete to ever get their pro
card. Yeah.
I mean, he was, you know, humble about it, but you could see a bit of pride as well.
Oh, for sure.
And well, he should be.
So.
I mean, these people are they're the pioneers for the next 20 years. And when I talked to Rudy yesterday, you know, who's now in his 30s, oh, there's our first woman out of the water. I think it's Victoria Lopes coming out of there, right there. So that is a great swim for her if it is.
Yeah, she put in a 2019 in 2021.
So she's about 21 minutes. So everyone's about a minute slower, just to give you the sense of, you know, some of their other times in past years. But they've got to get their stuff into that bag because as a double transition, for those who've done this before, the reality is they'll never go back out to the shore.
Yeah,
so
point to point, isn't it?
Yeah, if you don't put your wetsuit in there, you may never see it again. And when you've got 3,000 athletes, it's impossible to guess where everything's at.
That's why the volunteers on such courses are so important, right? Just that, getting all together, particularly to support the elites as well as the age groupers and the weekend warriors, of course, as they turn the orange, I'm going to say buoy. I think you guys over here say buoy.
Well, it is, all that I can say is you're happy to see each time that 6-foot thing is out there to give you some guidance as you're coming back toward shore. 60-degree water, again, for our viewers just tuning in. This is a 1,500-meter swim, so about 40% of the distance that they would have raced last weekend at the Ironman swim, which is just under 4 kilometers, and we're anticipating, you know, times roughly in the 20 minutes. And some of the fastest times of the day will come from the amateur age group race, because you're going to have some 23-year-old former NCAA college swimmer who's just taken up triathlon, and they take extra pride in trying to have a faster swim than any of those pros out there. So some of the fastest times often come from the age group race.
But of course it's multi-sport, and the elites will now be getting ready to push through T1, have a quick and efficient transition to get on the bike.
Now again, we're on 25 minutes onto the men's race, so every one of the elite men will be out of the water, all out onto the bike, heading back towards shore, and with a, you know, roughly, let's say 55 to 57 minute bike ride and an 18-minute swim, at about somewhere in the neighborhood of about an hour and 13, hour 14, we'll start seeing them coming into the transition area.
But look at the competitive nature of the swim now, Barry.
Yeah.
As we see Ahalia Lettenberger in the pink cap right on the hip of Chris Hammer.
Well, and that's to her benefit. She's going to make him look up, do the work. He's going to get frustrated as his toes are getting tickled by her every time they're coming through, and you'll know there's another body there. There's no question about it. She's playing this to absolute perfection, no question.
Yeah, she won the silver medal in the 400-meter freestyle at the 2019 World Para Swimming Championships. She swims at Rice University in Houston, Texas. And what I also liked about her story as well is she's studying bioengineering at university. She wants to design medical devices to help others with disabilities. So she's not only a medal-winning Paralympian, she's also super smart, who will no doubt continue to make a mark on the world after her athletic career.
Anytime you're an IM swimmer, and that's the 4 strokes, you are, you know, a specialist in everything. I mean, you really are able to do all of those strokes at a very high level. The separation here, we'll see who gets to that yellow buoy first, because sometimes if you go off course, and Chris looks like he's going off, so we'll see whether or not he adds himself a little bit of extra distance here. I think he's going to the wrong buoy. If you take a look over here, there's the one buoy coming back towards him, and I think Chris has made a mistake in going the wrong direction.
And I think maybe Lettenberger has spotted that, because you often get caught in following the heels, right? But we'll see what happens here. And I am certainly no one to critique swim technique, but taking a look at the difference between Lettenberger, who was born with a musculoskeletal disorder that affects her lower limbs, it's a very upper body motion that she has here, against Chris Hammer, whose disability is with his arm. but she just looks so tidy through the water, doesn't she?
I mean, she's coming from a traditional swim background. Chris was a runner who's, perfecting a stroke. Now he's recorrected himself, but he's probably added himself an extra 25 or 30 meters. She's being very smart, conserving her energy, and they're both going to get to that yellow buoy about the same time. The only difference is Chris has, had to go an extra 25 meters and use up a little bit of extra gas. Now, the fact is, both of these athletes, their day will end when they get out of the water, so energy conservation isn't maybe necessarily as significant. Look at that. That's much more intelligent navigation. Looking over, they're side by side. So she's using a little bit more kind of just open water smarts. And the fact is, she's actually traditionally a pool swimmer, so this isn't something that she would have that much experience at.
Yeah, and she will be handing over to Haley Chura. Chris Hammer will be handing over to the university-loved Heather Jackson.
Yeah, Heather has been incredibly busy here because she's also part of the sponsorship team that
Herbalife, yes, of course.
So she's been at their office meeting their staff, just being an incredible ambassador. I spent the whole winter with Heather in Tucson, Arizona. She's been swimming with Coach Justin Slade.
Did you ever see her break a smile? Like, not have a smile?
No,
across her face?
literally at 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week, as she jumps into the water, she has that smile at the end of every 50-meter interval. The teeth are still there, smiling. Like that's who she is. She's got a fantastic energy.
The graphic there identifying that Ahalia Lettenberger in the pink cap, closest to us on screen.
Now, Lettenberger, one of the things, if you notice, her turnover a little slower than Chris's, meaning that one thing, she's pulling more water per stroke.
Yes.
So Chris is not quite as efficient. He's just turning those arms over like a windmill, hoping that he moves forward. She's got a little bit more traditional swimming ability.
It's lovely to watch her efficiency through the water, actually.
Yeah, so that's going to be Haley and Heather Jackson. So the two female cyclists will be very likely the first to head off. And right now we're approaching 20 minutes on the Pro Am. They should be out of the water probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 27 minutes.
And we like that as well, right? Because the female PTO athletes are going to get a little head start, which...
To be fair, they're going to need it when you got Sam Long and Lionel Sanders coming at you.
And Daniel Beckergaard as well.
Oh, Daniel's a machine.
But he would have loved to have been in the water race.
Well, all of these athletes right now, the Pro-Am format is brand new, so it's something that we're still kind of figuring out. To Jane and the team that we're trying to put together these athletes, part of the objective is trying to do things where maybe there's a connection. We know that Paul and Lionel have an affection for each other in terms of years of following each other's careers, so there's a connection there. But you're also trying to put teams together that are likely to get to the finishing line within maybe a minute or two. So you might see one team 5 minutes ahead out of the water, but they might have a stronger runner on the final leg. And there's some incredible runners out there.
Lettenberger has spoken about how swimming helped her embrace her disability. She has a sense of freedom in the water as she glides so easily through the ocean right now, looking to come into the beach ahead of Chris Hammer. And we can see there that the PTO athletes are ready and waiting to grab the chip to then go into T1. Fighting talk there as well on the beach, perhaps. What do we think?
A little bit of trash talking. Sam says, look, I got my helmet on already. I'm going to save you another 8 or 9 seconds. So they're coming back towards shore now, 22 minutes. I think a little bit confused. Look, they're having some conversation here. Which direction do we go? So that one of the challenges, if you have 800 or 900 athletes, you're just following the athlete ahead of them. But these guys are getting some communication from the lifeguards out onto the water, and there are a lot of lifeguards out here. When you put on an event of this magnitude, it is a huge task, and I can't say enough good things about how hard these guys have worked out here. So there it's back to the yellow swim buoy. You can just see up there.
Was the green, has there been an error with these swimmers? Because the green, unless they've just gone past the green, I think the green is to identify the sprint.
Yeah, well, they're on their way back now.
They've just passed
they're on their way back. So that yellow swim buoy, they're going to make a hard right-hand turn and then right back to shore. When you see those athletes standing on shore, that's where Lionel and Sam will be. So it's about another 80 meters to that yellow swim buoy, a hard right and back to shore. They'll have to deal with a little bit of the surf coming through. And this is where Chris will have a bit of a benefit because he'll be able to do some, dolphin diving through that shallow area.
Yes, of course.
And we saw him out there. So you can see right now, this is why Lettenberg's trying to get as much of a gap as she can on him coming into the sandy portion. And one of the things they've modified on the race course is to have the cyclists waiting at shore to try to make it a little bit easier for these athletes. So Chris is not doing a great job of sighting. I can see him, you know, he hasn't looked up yet for about the last 9 or 10 strokes.
Oh, he's correcting now.
Yeah, but Lettenberger, she has done the straightest. If we put a little GPS on these athletes, he'll have done 1,800 meters and she'll have done 1,600 meters, and they'll come out of the water almost side by side. So she's navigating a little bit more direct throughout the day.
When I spoke to him yesterday, he was excited about a little bit more time in the ocean today and all of the challenges that it poses. As we see them turn at the final buoy to bring it home onto the beach.
Yeah, now that'll be easy. They'll look up and see the shore. And this is where Chris likely, even though he might be you know, side by side as they hit the break, he'll probably put himself another 15 or 20 seconds ahead getting out onto the course.
But a fantastic effort from Ahalia Lettenberger to put her team well in contention for the Pro Am.
That is very difficult for anybody who's ever swam early in the morning in the ocean. You're going right towards the sun.
You've got to get the right goggles, right?
Oh boy, it's tough. And I've been in races where it's literally coming right into your eyeball and you cannot see the direction that you're headed. You just see one big orange ball. Now, if these athletes were smart and they got out there, they would have tried to do it. In the perfect situation, you try to time one of your swims at the same time of the day as you would be racing, so that you can look and see any kinds of, can I see the big palm trees, can I see the top of a building? You're looking for some reference, and particularly one of the organizations that do a good job with this, the Hawaii Ironman, has a swim literally the week before on the same course, so that athletes at the same time of the day can go out and look for references. And there's our elite athletes. There's Sky getting a couple of shots from some of the photographers.
So it's looking like first out of the water will be Ahalia Lettenberger, but Barry, as you've pointed out, first perhaps at the changeover might well be Chris Hammer.
Yeah, well, Hammer's right now, if you take a look, he's about 10 to 12 meters behind her, but I think when he gets to that shallow area where you can dolphin dive, the waves right now will eventually work to the benefit of Chris, because once he's able to get to that shallow stuff, he'll get up and start to run dolphin dive.
Yes.
And Lettenberg won't be able to do that to the same magnitude. So there you can see Chris now getting closer. The two athletes are coming closer. And one of the challenges with parasport, there you can see Chris. He's going to jump up, dolphin dive, jump up, dolphin dive. And at some point, this water will get almost maybe 18 inches, you know, shallow, like that shallow. So it'll be to his benefit to get up and start to run.
Oh, there he goes, surging through.
Yeah.
And also breathing as well in this part of the course, trying to judge the waves. That can be a little bit of a challenge if you're not used to it.
Well, to the women power, it looks like Lettenberg is virtually going to be first out.
Fantastic.
But here's where Chris will get that last little benefit, right? That's what we saw and what we anticipated. So she's going to have to work against gravity. And that last 30 meters could take anywhere from 15 or 20 seconds. There, you can see her helpers are coming, and they've got her crutches, right? So that'll give her the ability to get in. Chris is doing the tag.
So Chris and the first into T1, hands over to Heather Jackson, who is now dashing up the beach into T1.
Well, she's one of the greatest runners in sport, so she won't mind having to run up the extra couple hundred meters. And there you can see the balance of our athletes. Fantastic job by Lettenberg, the Rice swimmer. Awesome job. Look at the smile. What a fantastic job out there today. And you have to say that she was the smartest of all the swimmers. She definitely did the straightest line.
She's handing over to Haley Chura.
Anybody who's ever run on sand knows that 400 meters on sand can get the heart rate rising very, very quickly. Jackson will get in the transition zone, and she's used to those 5 and 6 hour bike rides out through Mount Lemmon in Tucson, Arizona. So this little 40K ride for her, and she's been on the podium in this race before. Look at that smile again.
Yeah, she loves this course.
Now, if I was a sponsor and I had a toothpaste product, I'm not sure if she and her husband have been thinking wisely about her potential future sponsors, but that would be one of them for me. All right, getting ready to head out onto the course. I'm anticipating Sanders could be somewhere down. Here comes
Haley.
Haley into the transition zone.
Always
She's got
wearing that green and yellow.
Yeah.
You can't miss her out there on the course.
And she, wow, what a great swim by Haven Shepherd.
She, too, always finds such a positive spirit.
She said she was very nervous. She didn't want to put Lionel any further back. Well, that Lionel is in a great position now. My goodness, we thought there might be a 5-minute gap. It's probably going to be about 3 minutes. And there goes Lionel Sanders, the 31-year-old Canadian from just outside of Windsor, Ontario. Lives in the small town of Harrow is where he grew up.
A lot of our challenged athletes were at the White House very recently. They had a spectacular day down there. I saw a lot of photos shared across their socials.
Well, these athletes that we're seeing right now starting to come out are many of the age group athletes. Again, they left only 8 minutes after, and let's pretend you are a world-class former Michigan swimmer now doing triathlon. Well, you might have come out of the water in 17 minutes, so you could have made up the gap on the para athletes that are out there. And there's Heather Jackson. She's got the very colorful outfit on.
She starts tackling Venice Boulevard, heading east.
She won't be happy to find out that Lionel Sanders is probably about 3 minutes down going out onto the course. They would have wanted to have maybe somewhere in the 6 to 7 minute gap. Lionel will not play nice when he gets onto that bike. Heather Jackson won Ironman Florida, and she's consistently a sub-3 hour marathoner. So for those viewers that are out there and you go try to run a 3:30 to qualify for Boston or 3:40, imagine doing a sub-3 off of a 180-kilometer bike ride.
Well, speaking of the bike, she did just over an hour on the bike here last year and just under an hour and 2 minutes in 2019. So that will give you an indication of how long she might be. I believe that's Emily Gray coming out of the water now. Emily these days, she's a climber. She started with swimming, credentialed in swimming, but now she's trying to make a real impression in para climbing, get it recognized as a Paralympic sport. She's from South Africa, but she spends time here in the US. I think she lives in Colorado, she was telling me, spent a lot of time in New York.
Her next goal is to do Mount Kenya, 17,000 feet. And there goes the tag, there goes Mr. Sam Long. This Sam is so good for the sport. Initially I think some young people maybe were watching thinking this guy's being a little bit brass, but he's backed it up with victories, medals at the 70.3 Worlds, through the mat. So what he's doing right there, he took off her chip and tossed it down, and that way we'll have an official time for their swim leg, and now he's got a chip on his own ankle, which will become the official bike split for him. So the leads going to the right.
There's a different.
The age group athletes going right underneath. You can see right there they've got the shower set up. So these are now the amateur athletes coming out of the water. Sam didn't have to worry about going through there because he obviously doesn't have salt water on him. He wasn't in the swim. So these guys are trying to get that salt water off. Anybody who's got that chafing that happens after about 45 minutes when the salt water starts drawing, you know it.
And how cool was it for those age groupers, I'm assuming it's the age groupers, that were there just side by side with Sam Long? I bet they didn't expect that when they signed up for the Herbalife24.
There she's changing the gears. You can see on her. Just under 2 minutes behind Team Jackson based on Lionel's cycling speed. I would anticipate that he's probably going to take him at least 12-15K before we start seeing the two athletes on the screen at the same time.
So 10 minutes between first and third right now. Let's see how that shakes out. Jamal Hill is approaching the beach.
Para bronze medalist at the 2021 Games in Tokyo. And he said one of the other things, that he's excited about, there you can see the age group athletes with those blue caps just going past Jamal. Trying to get your land legs when you've been down for 25-30 minutes is not easy. Sky's on shore waiting for him to come here. So he's just trying to get himself, and it's often that you're feeling lightheaded. Now he's just trying to get back up and get to Sky.
It looks like he's He's been pointed in a right direction. He has a foundation called Swim Uphill, which I think is a wonderful play on words.
I think he feels like he's been swimming uphill for about the last 35 minutes. All right, he's got to show a little bit of juice here this last 20 seconds, trying to get his land legs as he's getting back up on shore. But one of the things that he realizes, you know, that as a man of color, he's trying to bring the sport to different areas around the world, to different cultural groups. And it's been fantastic to see what the sport has been able to do over the last 5 or 6 years. PTO certainly playing a very large role in that.
Yeah, he's offering more than just a smiling face and a medal, as he puts it. Now wants to help 1 million people a year to swim.
Now, remember about 25 minutes ago when you asked the question about a guy who can swim 25 seconds?
Right.
34 minutes is a lot of 25 seconds put together. That's about 75 of those back to back. So he says, look, the first one I was good for. The second 2 and 3, maybe not so bad. That 30th and 40th 50 meter, that was a little tougher.
That raw power takes a lot of energy, doesn't it?
Well, the different body types for sure, and he would have had the fast twitch fibers that can just lay it down there for, you know, under a minute. Once you start getting out at 30 and 35 minutes, you could just see how absolutely gassed he was coming in.
We're still following Heather Jackson, our leader right now in the Pro Am.
Well, one of the issues here, you can just imagine, I came in from the airport on Friday night, but you can imagine trying to shut down 40 kilometers of one of the busiest,
a logistical nightmare
of one of the busiest cities in, you know, all of North America. It is just remarkable. And we chatted with the race director yesterday. He actually looked pretty calm and you know, collected. I'm not sure how he's doing today, but 1,000 volunteers that are out on the course.
Wow.
You know, these guys are getting up at 4:30 in the morning, taking a day off of their life to be a part of this event, and there's a ton of charities that are benefiting from these events as well.
It's the triathlon community coming together spectacularly well, and everyone's very grateful for it. So it's a long stretch up Venice Boulevard. It's a slight false flat. She goes into the heart of Los Angeles.
Well, right now those roads won't look very busy, but in about another 35 minutes, when 3,000 people are filling the streets coming in, you know, it becomes incredibly busy. The USA Triathlon have their officials that are out on the course. Obviously, you know, Heather doesn't have to worry about anybody because she's in the lead. But when you start getting the number of bikes that are out there, there will in fact be marshals that are out to ensure that there's a gap of time. You can't see Lionel yet. I would anticipate it's going to be sometime in probably about the next maybe 10 minutes we'll see Lionel coming through.
We didn't see the changeover of Alicia Seeley to Daniel Beckergaard, but we are informed that that has happened successfully. Last out of the water was Jamal Hill.
Well, we've got a Willie Stewart sitting in the transition zone who'll be smiling because he knows that with every pedal stroke, he's getting ready for his 10K run. She looks a little bit like a NASCAR, you know, with all those sponsors all over her. I mean, she's so popular, no question about it, that lots of people like to be involved.
I love those checked, that checked look as well. It just brings, it just smacks of finishing line, doesn't it?
Well, she and her husband have put together phenomenal uniforms. They've had companies over the years that in fact develop clothing. So she's got an eye, and her husband particularly, Waddy, has an eye for doing that. The only thing that fantastic outfit is doing is covering up some of the greatest tattoos in the universe. If you've ever seen her, you know, just up close, she's got some amazing tattoos on her arms.
And it's great that these athletes can have a way of expressing their own individuality with their kits, sometimes with their rigs as well. And of course, you know, if you're into body art, that's something additional at the same time.
Yeah, you want to make sure that when you lay down that body art, that it's going to be for a while. Although I've seen a couple tattoo companies that do a good job of, you know, making up for mistakes that have been meant on a, you know, on an 18-year-old bet or whatever the case may be. Heather's one of the now more mature athletes on the race course. She's in her late 30s and has been racing. She and Sky have kind of become the two top U.S. athletes at that long distance racing format.
Yeah.
And they've had a really healthy, really positive back and forth. I mean, they both want to be number one. You can appreciate, doesn't matter what your sport is, first you want to be best in your country and then you want to be best in the world. So the two of them have been battling over the last 3 or 4 years to be the best American, and it's been a back and forth. Heather's taken a victory and then Sky, and back and forth. So it's great for the sport, no question about it, to have two such world-class women representing the United States.
100%. She was the achiever of the fastest Ironman by an American American female at Arizona in 2018.
Well, there's the Colonel right there, Lionel Sanders. Look, he's got the disc on. He is laying down some huge watts, and he has really worked hard in his last 3 or 4 years. Canyon's done a great job of bringing some high technology to Lionel Sanders to be able to make sure in the early days, he was incredibly powerful, but not necessarily really efficient with his biking. But they've spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel, a lot of time with Canyon to make sure that they get him in the right position. And Lionel Sanders right now is eating time into Heather Jackson, and I think it's just going to be a matter of time before Lionel pulls up beside Heather. I know Heather's doing incredibly well. Look at this car over here trying to struggle, and Lionel's pulling away from the car, so that just shows what kind of speed this guy has.
Absolutely ripping it down Venice Boulevard is Lionel Sanders.
It's the first time that he's raced here before, so this will be absolutely brand new. He can look up the road there and he'll be able to see that Heather, I think, is not too far up the street. And it's great, when you finally do close down the roads, lots of the locals are out here enjoying their bicycle ride early in the morning before the 3,000 or 4,000 age groupers start coming through.
And I know this isn't going to really affect a cyclist like Lionel Sanders, but the condition of the roads out there, they're well trodden, as we say. So it's going to be kind of uncomfortable there on those TT bikes.
Yeah, the only difference is, it's 54, 55 minutes. He was, 4:16, I think, at that incredible ride he had just a week ago in St. George.
Right, yeah.
One of the fastest rides I've ever seen him do was at Ironman Florida, just a little over 4 hours.
4:04.
Yeah. So, he's used to putting anywhere well into the 300s, and if it's, a shorter race like this, he's averaged over 400 watts at a couple of Olympic distance races. If you are a fan of Lionel Sanders over the years, we'll talk about it when we go back to him, but he recently set the Canadian record at the velodrome. So here's a guy who's never been at a velodrome, and he just said, you know what, it's the pandemic, I can't race much, maybe I'm going to go up to Milton, this great location just outside of Toronto, and I think he might have had 3 or 4 max rides, and we're talking about a 250-meter track with a 36-degree bank. This is not that novices go on, and in less than 6 or 7 rides, he set the Canadian record. The fastest a man had ever gone in 1 hour was just over, I think, 50-plus kilometers.
51.304.
Yeah. So
incredible effort.
Phenomenal, and right in the middle of the pandemic when
from a triathlete.
Yeah. And literally, he showed up in the morning. He got there about 30 minutes before. This wasn't a $17 million funded 1 hour attempt, and he does want to go back because he thinks it's soft. He said, I think that. With a little bit more practice and a better aerodynamic positioning, I could even do better.
Of course he did. Mr. No Limits himself.
Well, I got to know Lionel when he was about a 16-year-old. We both went to the same high school, amazingly. And his high school coach called me and said, there's a kid that's got way too much talent, don't know what to do with him, can you help me out? And he was a runner. People think of Lionel Sanders as a cyclist, but in fact, he was a runner, ran at college, had some incredible performances, helped his team at the college level have some of the strongest performances ever. So I think these are some of the bike athletes that are out now on the relays that are out just doing the bike race.
Well, just a little note for the viewers as well, because the motorcycles you see on the left, they typically follow the lead cyclist.
That's Heather, I think.
And I think we can see that Lionel now has Heather in his sights.
Yeah, he'll look up, and Heather won't know it's coming, but she'll feel some air go by her here momentarily, I think. And she's having a phenomenal ride. I mean, Heather Jackson is a very, very accomplished athlete, but you can just see those lights in the back, those motorcycles, and Lionel Sanders will be coming through here. at about the 45-minute mark, and then it'll be just a matter of how much time he's able to put into Heather, and Sam Long will be coming up very quick behind as well.
Lionel said that he lost feeling in his arms on the run at the World Championships last week. That is absolutely insane.
I lost feeling watching. I mean, it was incredible. And again, if you think of, I mean, he's had some great success in California. He was Oceanside, you know, just a month before that when he had that brilliant sprint finish with Rudy von Bergen. What a phenomenal run that was. He certainly is a guy who loves to entertain. He never gives up. I saw him in this kind of a position at Mount Tremblant with a flat tire, and he was passing people with a flat tire because he was waiting for the mobile bike course support out there, and he probably rode 25 kilometers.
They were trying to catch him, Barry. That was what was happening.
Oh, that was the problem. On a flat tire, and he was still going, 43 kilometers an hour. Cameras kept showing down to a flat tire that was right in front.
Oh, he's closing in quick now. And when I spoke with Lionel yesterday, I kind of congratulated him on his performances most recently. He said, yeah, I don't want to make a habit of it. And then I made the mistake of following up by saying, well, it's great. I mean, what an effort. He said, I'm a winner. I don't want to be chasing down for second place. Like, I want to be chasing down for that #1 spot.
Now, I talked to him about the race, the unofficial, well, not unofficial, it was the Ironman World Champs, although it was first time outside. And
here we go, Barry, here we go.
Let's see if he says anything, he even looks over. They swim together in the pool every morning. So, I mean, these
Heather
are pals.
had a look, but Lionel's dialed in
Yeah.
as he passes Heather Jackson on the course as he steams up Venice Boulevard here. Yeah, any questions that were going around Los Angeles about whether Lionel was out for just a lazy Sunday morning ride? Well, that's not the case.
He doesn't know how to eat breakfast slowly, he does not know how to shower slowly, and he does not know how to race slowly. That is a dialed-in young man. I saw him yesterday afternoon, he and Aaron and Talbot Cox, who does all those great video vignettes and YouTube stories. They've got a really dialed-in team, and he's also going to be excited because Ari, his training partner, is out racing in the elite race right now. So Lionel's going to be probably trying to catch Ari, who's ahead of him, because they were the elite athletes left, as you know, 8 minutes ahead of the Pro Am field. But Lionel will probably catch some of the men in the pro field who left 8 minutes ahead of him.
Yeah, wonderful stuff as he starts to pull away increasingly from Heather Jackson. Really put some distance in before he hands over to former UFC fighter and current UFC broadcaster,
your
Paul
buddy.
Felder.
Your buddy.
He's actually my commentary partner on a lot of the shows that I do over for the UFC, but he's multi-talented, Paul Felder. He's an actor, he's a traditionally trained actor. So you might see him on the small screen as well. Let's see if we can get any pictures.
We're going to go back, I think, and take a look at some of the other athletes out there. Again, there are 6 teams out here. There will be 3,000. Yeah, that's Haley for sure. You can tell by that green outfit that she has on. Currently, I think Haley's in 3rd place. Now, she took a bit of time. This is during the pandemic to go and run an incredible marathon. Like, she just put in a world-class performance, 2:43 in the U.S. Olympic marathon trials, knowing that, at some point the women's running just gets faster and faster. So what an incredible situation for, the pandemic was a benefit for some athletes. They took time to work on some of their weaknesses, and boy, to run a 2:43 marathon for Haley Chura, that is absolutely impressive.
Well, another note that we need to mention about Haley was she was actually lining up to race in the elite women's today. Holly Lawrence had an unfortunate accident on her bike, and she broke the front half of her bike by all accounts, so she wasn't able to come and participate in the Pro Am. So grateful to Haley Chura for stepping up, and after a tough last week, she was quite happy, I think, to just tackle the bike.
Now, I'm not sure what it is about the accounting world, but I took a look. Haley was in the accounting world when she decided to make the move over to triathlon. If you follow Gwen Jorgensen, the Olympic gold medalist, from the games from the United States.
Is Sky as well? Was she a former accountant?
Yeah, I think there's something they want to know what to do with their money when they get it. You know, you and I sadly have no money and don't know what to do with it, but Haley will know at least how to invest her money and make sure she pays her taxes at the end of the year.
Absolutely. And she's looking pretty comfortable at this stage of the race. She was about 5.5 minutes slower than Heather Jackson last time here. She rode an hour and 6 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see if she can gain any ground on Heather. We'll get an idea of just how hard these ladies are pushing today here in Los Angeles.
She's going to have Sam Long trying to do the same thing to her that Lionel Sanders did to Heather Jackson, and that'll eventually be coming up. Quintana Roo, the bike there, and what's interesting is that that bike got its real start here in California some 35 years ago by Dan Emfield and the team, and there's Lionel Sanders, who's not taking time to look at Target as he goes flying by the store and heading back into town. 49 minutes, so he's about 25 minutes now into his ride, and about another 27, 28 minutes to go.
Now, hopefully we're going to see some pictures of Daniel Beckergaard soon. And earlier this week, he told us how his family know all too well the challenges of physical disabilities.
It's pretty unique in terms of that. My little brother's an amputee, so I kind of followed on the sideline how life is as an amputee, and therefore I think it's awesome to be able to race alongside the CAF athletes as well. It's something I think in some ways it can be kind of underestimated, the impact that it have on the life of especially kids and young guys, young people. To have a kind of accident or cancer or whatever the cause is. Like mentally, I've seen how big of a struggle it can be, and I think that's one thing I want to help with. Like, come on, get out there, and I'll for sure help you along the way if I can, and in any way I can. And this event is just, I think it's one stepping stone to make it more normal, just to mix it along, because we're supposed to just be able to mix CAF athletes and normal athletes. I think that's very cool to be a part of that.
I mean, just so interesting that I never knew that about Daniel and his brother, but then how this has all come together and his participation here with the CAF athletes. Wonderful stuff that they're going to be handing over to one another, and I'm sure his brother will be watching with interest back home as well, proud of his big brother's pursuits here in triathlon and his efforts today as well.
Well, he said it really had an impact on him, you know, as days are going to be tough for every person. You're an athlete traveling and someone loses your bike, you get a flat tire, you don't have the result you have. He said his brothers allowed him to put things into perspective. Sure. And, you know, guess what? How would my brother deal with this? How would another person who maybe has had cancer, or some of these other, you know, para-athletes, how do they deal? I loved hearing, you know, Chris Hammer's thing, you know, don't get stuck in the suck. Yes. That should become, Chris should patent that and put a t-shirt out there, because I think it's a great attitude. And, you know, everyone can benefit from that, certainly that attitude of realizing that we're all going to have tough days, but don't get kind of bogged down in it for sure. Yeah,
Daniel's a wonderful person, his story to follow, very entertaining character as well. I love the piece that the PTO did with him, where he was talking about how nationally they have to be very humble. You're not allowed to go out there and stake your claim to be the best in the world at things of that nature, which he says actually holds back Danish athletes a little bit, and he's trying to toe the line, but at the same time have that self-confidence, because of course he does want to be the best in the world. He does want to tackle the Christian Blumenfelds and the Sam Longs, but those guys, you know, particularly Sam, he's out there, very outspoken, laying down the gauntlet, and there's like this internal conflict, which was fascinating. And this is what's wonderful about the international sport of triathlon, right, and the differences culturally and how they're perceived back home in their respective countries.
Well, you definitely see the cultural differences for sure. like you'll get to every finishing line and the Japanese athletes will bow as they get to the finishing line to show respect to the officials, to their other competitors, etc. So one of the great parts about sport and traveling around the world is that you get a chance to see how different cultures work, the personalities. You know, for sure when we go to Australia, there's some really strong personalities on those Aussies. You know, they've been used to winning at many sports and they go out there expecting to win. Again, we're watching Lionel Sanders, and he's pulling further and further away from Heather Jackson right now. But there's no question Sam Long is coming. Daniel's coming from, you know, the back there. No question that they'll be riding. Sky is doing her best job to try to catch back up.
Just to contradict myself about Daniel and staying humble, of course, there was that epic finish that he had. Was it back in 2019? Won his Ironman debut and stamped over the tape. And a lot of people were talking about it. I think he got voted like maybe the best finish, but he'd had such an interesting journey to that point, missing out on the Olympic team, and everything just came to the emotions really got the better of him in that moment, and you saw what it meant, and I love that, because the amount of work that goes in, it's reserved for the elite. So many things have to come together to have a great race. And I think it's right to see that expression of emotion when you hit the finish line.
You would hope that there's emotion. I mean, you put so many hours into this. Now, Daniel started off as a great swimmer, so you know that was maybe probably as a young man his goal. I want to be at the Olympics in swimming, and then this new sport of triathlon comes along. And I had the chance to do many of his races, those Olympic distance events around the world, as he was kind of just right there, and didn't make that last jump. And so, you know, he had the perfect, however, foundation to move into the sport of long distance triathlon. Whereas when you take a look at Lionel Sanders, Lionel had no swimming background, no biking background. He had been a phenomenal high school and then college runner. So when he came in, he had to start learning all of those sports, you know, as a 21, 22, 23-year-old, whereas Daniel and some of the other athletes that they're racing against, the Jan Ferdinos and the Christian Blumenfelds, you know, they've had the standard swim, bike, and run as young men.
And Lionel's got a pretty dark story himself, hasn't he, Barry?
Yeah.
And he's overcome some of his own personal problems to be an elite athlete. And when we were talking about that in the last couple of days, it really is in his makeup. Like, that has helped drive him to be the person that we see today, that we call no limits, and just bites down and gets on with the job.
Yeah, again, you know, if you are a hardened triathlon follower of Lionel Sanders, you know the story, but you know, by the time he was kind of 19, 20 years of age, he got hooked up with, you know, one summer of meeting some guys involved in drugs, and before he knew it, he literally was out of university. He was spending every dollar that he had, and even dollars he didn't have, to buy drugs. He hadn't left, you know, the apartment that he was living in for months. He started to hallucinate, and finally, you know, he tells the story at the saddest, lowest moment of his life. He was in the garage of some guys having a huge party, and he was up on the end of a chain around his neck.
Wow.
So, you know, that was literally going to be the end of his life, and he started to think about what would his family think. They had done nothing wrong. He had just got addicted to drugs, and he had the courage to come down to call his father, and he set himself a goal of, I have to get back in shape, because he had been a great athlete, and he decided, what am I going to do? I want to do an Ironman. And so he went off and did that first Ironman with no real proper training, on a cheap bike, not knowing how to swim, and he got lapped by the leader who was going to win the race. Ran by him, and Lionel still had another lap to go on that marathon course, and this guy's going to the finishing line, and now he's finishing 2 hours and 20 minutes faster than that first time, as an inspiration to many. But you know, he understands that people have dark moments, and I think that's important.
And he's now the PTO ranked number 3 athlete in the world, following his recent form. And there's the big rig, Sam Long. And again, we're talking about kit, by the way. Now I love this. I love the pink. I don't carry it off nearly as well as what Sam Long does.
I don't
however.
think either of us could.
But he's looking fantastic out there. He's got a really good cadence there as well on the bike.
Well, Sam's got a phenomenal coach, a guy named Ryan Bolton, who I spent a lot of time with in the late 90s. Ryan was on the very first ever Olympic team that the United States sent to the Sydney Olympics. And so he's got this world-class coach that understands the sport, that spends the winter in Tucson, Arizona with Sam and the other athletes that they're working with there in Tucson. And, you know, Sam's got great coaching, phenomenal accomplishment. He's a triplet, by the way.
Yes.
You know,
there are a number of triplets at top-level triathlon as well, which is pretty astonishing.
Yeah, so he's a triplet, and then on top of that, he just has this kind of personality that excites you. You know, and he and Lionel, you know, swim in the same pool with Coach Justin Slade at the Aqua Bear pool. So, you know, these top guys see each other on a daily basis. They don't necessarily do the same bike and run workouts, but they're in the pool virtually the same time, and they see each other on a daily basis.
Also out there on the road is Sky Munch. Hopefully we're going to be seeing some of her very shortly. One of the very best triathletes in the world. She was delighted to see one of her former training partners on the start list today.
The CAF athletes, you know, I've known about them, but this is really my first time officially partnering or doing anything alongside them. But, you know, it's funny, one of the CAF athletes, Chris Hammer, he's on Heather's team actually, I used to be a training partner of his. I didn't know he was going to be here, but we used to have the same coach and we used to train together, and he's just an incredible example to me of, speaking of like not making excuses or just working hard. Yeah, all of the CAF athletes are just incredible examples of making the most of their situation. I mean, talk about, they literally can't control that. They're born a certain way or something happens and their bodies are not fully functioning, but to them they make do with what they have, and that's just like the ultimate, and they figure it out, and they're still these elite amazing athletes. So I mean, yeah, I'm a full able-bodied athlete, and when you look at the CAF athletes, then it puts things in perspective, like, okay, I think swimming's hard and I have both fully functioning arms and hands and everything, so it's incredible what they do.
We'll talk about incredible. Lionel Sanders on pace right now for maybe the fastest bike split we have ever seen in almost 40 years of racing here in LA. And look at the grimace. He is not letting up. I mean, he knows that he's already passed Heather Jackson, but he knows that Danielle and Sam will be coming. He wants to give Paul the biggest lead he can out onto the run course. And Lionel Sanders, who now is just about a decade into the sport. He was a college runner. Once he kind of overcame his darker days, he went to McMaster University just outside of Toronto in Hamilton, Ontario, a member of their medal-winning team while he was at McMaster University. Once ran the Boston Marathon with his mother. His mother is a great runner and a very good triathlete herself. And Lionel needed a 30K hard run leading into some of his training days. So he was at the Boston Marathon, got a VIP invite, and he ran 30K. Then he sat on the side of the road for an hour waiting till his mother got to there, and he and his mother ran the last 12 kilometers of the Boston Marathon. I mean, what an amazing moment for a mother and a son to be able to do something together like that. So he used his Boston Marathon running day as a training day for his triathlon Ironman stuff. So he's becoming more and more famous, you know, right around the world. It's amazing to see, you know, probably his biggest fan base is in South America. I mean, he is an absolute rock star. He said the most frightened he's ever been at races are how deep the crowds are, and they just want a picture and an autograph. So South America is probably Lionel Sanders' big base, but he certainly has fans all around the world.
Still looking strong, laying down serious power. I'd love to see the numbers that he's putting out.
Well, he'll have it later on. We're anticipating about 8 minutes till we see the first of the elite men coming into the transition zone.
Now we'll see what's happening down the field. Of course, that's the yellow and green of Hayley Chura. She's got a good lead on Sam Long at the moment, but I'm sure that Sam will be trying to eat, or will be eating into that.
So
I'm just getting notes that there might be some mechanical issues for Heather Jackson. She may have suffered a puncture, so we'll bring that to you as soon as we've had that confirmed.
Anybody who follows, Formula One knows that the equipment has to work for the entire day, or It doesn't matter how highly ranked you are coming in. Nice turn here. They've got those orange boys out there, and you know, right now Haley has the perfect situation, an open road to ride on. There's Daniel.
Yes, that's the long frame of Daniel Beckergaard.
Both he and Lionel on Canyon bikes, and you can see the value. Canyon has come into the sport about 4 or 5 years ago. They've been around for a while, but they certainly have made a big investment. And when you have, you know, people like Jan Frodeno and Lionel Sanders and Daniel on your bike, you know that a lot of people are going to take notice, and the sales of those bikes have just been massive because of those 3 men.
If you've been across the PTO socials this week, you'd have noticed that Daniel was having a little fun at Sam Long's expense. He did this little sketch where he'd gone down to Venice Beach and was posing with some safety equipment, kind of saying, I just told the lifeguards to take the day off tomorrow because you don't have to worry, Sam Long will not be swimming. And if you know the story about this, Jan Frodeno threw an inflatable into the pool when they were getting ready for the Collins Cup.
Yes.
And actually Sam responded by saying that really put him on tilt for the race, and he was a bit intimidated by that. So Beckergaard, smelling blood in the water, if you like, has followed up once again here in Los Angeles and laying it down to Sam Long. So, you know, he's going to try and chase him down on the bike.
Well, one of the things when you are as kind of positive and energetic and, let's say, borderline, you know, confident as Sam is, others are going to take a little bit of a run at you. I think it's great for the sport. The challenge is that Sam then has to back that up, and he has many days. His challenge has been on a couple of his biggest days. He hasn't been able to execute at Collins and at, you know, unfortunately he was hit by a car just a week out from the St. George race. The fact that he even was able to get up and race, you know, is pretty impressive. We have been watching the Lionel Sanders show here for about the last 30+ minutes. He'll be heading back to Tucson, Arizona. Lionel, although a Canadian now, has his permanent base in Tucson, actually a small community called Oro Valley just outside of Tucson. And he says, you want to see hot, 114 degrees in June and July are some hot days. He's given some conversation right now, I think, of maybe going up to do a little bit of training up in Flagstaff, Arizona, as we get towards the middle of the summer. There's Haley. Getting a little bit closer back to the finish of this 40-kilometer bike ride. 1:15 on our watch since the elite athletes went in, so I'm anticipating that they should be coming off the bike here momentarily.
What a backdrop that is for Haley Chura. I mean, this is such a unique urban triathlon, right? This is the stuff of movies.
Well,
and you're getting to compete on around the streets of Los Angeles. Wonderful stuff.
It is so difficult. I mean, when you walk through, there's the Big Magic. You can see the Big Magic Johnson poster right there.
Yeah, coming
just
onto Figueroa. So we're getting close.
Here we go then. We can see the front pack, or the front man, I'm going to say, Erik Lagerström here, who's just coming into T2. And we're thinking, closely contested by Jamie Riddle, close behind, who led coming out of the water, didn't he, Vicky?
These two have been locked together all day. Jamie led the swim, was the first onto his bike, but Erik was right behind him. I think these two have just swapped positions just in the last couple of seconds here. So those two locked together all day. It's all going to come down to the 10K run.
Did you expect it to come down to those two and to be so close as they are?
I would have said these were two of the favourites for today's race, absolutely. I wasn't sure how Jamie would go on the non-draft format, but he's showing he can really ride a bike today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they've got 10K now to go on the run. That's it for the men's elite race. We're going to go down to downtown LA now for 2 laps of this 5K circuit, obviously completing 10K in the end. We'll hand back to John and Barry to complete that one.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so Erik Lagerström coming in ahead of Jamie Riddle. They've been in this position before as well, but it was flipped the other way round. So I think we might see Eric take this. He typically has better form on the run, but of course Jamie Riddle, being so young at 21, improvements, I'm sure, every 6 months. Whereas, not being unkind to Eric, but I think he's about 32, so a little bit more of a veteran athlete.
Eric has been around for a long time, and you know, the last 2 or 3 years, he's been training hard, but he's put probably a little bit more of his energy into helping his partner, Paula Finley, who's, you know, had some phenomenal races over the last couple of years, and she would totally tell you that a big part of her success has been Eric. So she'll be very excited right now to be watching the race, knowing that her partner Eric is out there, will have a chance to win his first big race in probably about 4 or 5 years.
So switching back to the Pro Am and to Lionel Sanders.
Now Lionel will be riding through some of the back of the pack elite athletes who left 8 minutes or so ahead. So he's got targets out there. Even though he's leading the race, he's the kind of guy that likes to have a target. I remember he did a workout about 3 weeks ago on Mount Lemmon, and he had an athlete that kept getting driven ahead to be put up the road, so he had somebody to keep chasing up the mountain. Even though he was running a phenomenal pace, he wanted to have a target up the road so that he could visualize it was a runner he had to run down. So he likes to race, he likes to have a target ahead to go after.
Coached these days by Mikkel Eden as well, Gustav Eden's brother,
yeah,
which is a fascinating dynamic, isn't it? A rival on the course, and the brother is your coach, but he certainly seems like he's comfortable with that, and it's paying dividends as well.
Yeah, you know, I think I heard him say in the last couple of weeks that he's finally starting to listen to the coaches. He certainly has listened to Justin Slade over the last year, and Justin's done a great job of improving his swim. But he was so, you know, kind of confident in his decision making on the biking and the running and the decision making that he just literally decided that he was going to follow his own plan. And so it's great that he's letting that confidence go to somebody else, just following and executing. And he says, look, I'm now at the point where I've got a team around me. And I think I just saw Talbot Cox on that motorcycle, the guy with the video. So
he's everywhere.
Yeah, he's on that blue motorcycle right there. Just saw them going through. So they're going to get some footage. So I'm sure those who are fans of Lionel's YouTube channel will be getting some good footage for the next show to come up. But the sun is up. It's starting to warm up here. It was a little cool earlier this morning. You weren't wise enough to bring your jacket. I saw you over there, but I had mine on. But the sun's now up, and the 5K runners are just finishing in front of you and I. I mean, this is a zoo of racers. It's 5K runners, it's bikers, as we're seeing out on the course, it's the triathletes, it's the relay, it's the Pro Am, and it's just tens of thousands of people out here racing in LA.
Well, it's a hive of activity here. You made me take eyes off of our screen there for a minute, and at that very moment in front of me is Paul Felder doing his warm-up run as he expects to see his compadre out there, Lionel Sanders, to come into T2 soon. So we see that Felder's taking it very seriously. He wants to get a PB in his 10K out here today. I'm not sure, there's a little hill as they go over the highway, so it's not exactly a flat course, but Paul's still, you know, with ambitions of middle and long distance triathlon. I'm not sure he's been out there trying to smash a 10K PB, so have an opportunity to do so.
Up and out of the saddle, sprinting in a charity race.
There you go.
Yeah, you don't want to have a lawn dart competition. There goes Haley around the corner. So there's a couple out and backs on this course, and it's a chance for athletes to see if they're losing time or making up time on each other. But just a logistical nightmare. Imagine all the off ramps, all the side streets, all of the gas stations, all of the malls, all of the places you have to have a police officer and a volunteer. And they've got to be out there. I mean, the race started at 6 a.m. local time. That's a lot of people getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to execute this, and just a tribute to everyone involved in this massive race.
Yes, a lot of logistics coming together to allow us all to be here on this beautiful Sunday morning.
There's the Georgia University athlete. Was a great swimmer there, no question, when she was in her heyday at college. One of the things that I think you're going to see here, John, over the next probably decade, U.S. Triathlon has been able to get NCAA women's full medal, full scholarship triathlon out. And it's only about 5 or 6 years of kind of really producing those athletes, but a decade from now, when you have 400 Haley Turas coming out of NCAA racing, and it's not just even American athletes, there's athletes from all over the world now that are here, from Australia, Germany, Canada, racing in there's over 40 schools now with full scholarship, and it's just amazing. I went to last year's NCAA champs in Tempe, Arizona. It is just wonderful to see how energetic, how the sport has grown in America for young women.
And I guess this means it may change the dynamic of the Collins Cup in future years.
For sure. Well, you only have to look at the Taylor Nibbs, that are coming down the pathway, and she was a Cornell athlete, but the college system, there is no better place to develop a triathlete. You've got a swimming team, you've got a running team, you've got 10,000 young fit bodies that want to go train every day, some great coaches on those campuses, fantastic facilities. The sport has never been at a better place than it has right now in America.
And to be able to leverage sports science, which is typically quite expensive, if you can do that at an amateur level, I just can't imagine the leaps and strides that it's going to make for professional triathlon, as you say, in the next decade.
Yeah, everyone benefits when technology rises. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's been the rise of the wattage that we've been able to use with these Wahoos and various other trainers, or now these pods that are on your running shoes. I know Lionel has some technology in his swim goggles, that he's able to use. So I mean, technology. Back when Dave Scott and Mark Allen and Paula Newby-Fraser were coming through the sport, it was basically go out there and sweat for 6 or 7 hours, and hopefully you sweat at a smarter rate than someone else.
And forgive me, I forget the name of the patch that I think measures glycogen levels, right? So just all of these additions, which everything adds up, especially when you have such an investment as you do, perhaps if you don't have a sponsor, to get one of these wonderful bikes.
Well, because of the Norwegian coach that Lionel now has and the technology that Christian Blumenfeld and Gustav Eden and their team have used, I watched Lionel all winter long. He and Ari and his training partners, probably 3 to 4 times a day, were having lactate blood samples taken, usually from the ear, but it was an opportunity.
Like the pro cycling teams.
Totally. So they're making sure that they're not working too hard. And so one of the things that Lionel's notorious for is working hard, too hard probably many times. And so this ability to have the lactate has made a big opportunity for that to occur.
So an hour and 15 minutes now into our Pro Am, as Lionel Sanders continues to tear up the tarmac here on the streets of Los Angeles. Everyone is the chaser to the leader right now.
So we understand that out on the course right now, Jamie and Eric Lagerström are side by side as they go through 3 kilometers. And their 10K splits are within about 9 or 10 seconds difference in terms of their PBs. So we're watching those 2 athletes out on the course. We'll try to give updates as we can. But Lionel now is going through pros. If you take a look on the screen, that are pros that have left, 8 or 9 minutes ahead of their race. And he's now going through those athletes. So some of those guys will go, I'm going as hard as I can, and that guy went by me like I was going backwards.
Just going to give you a little update from what I can see on the elite men. So we've got Eric Lagerström in first right now, Jamie Riddle in second, Danilo Pimentel is in third, Stephen McKenna is in fourth, and Jason West in fifth.
Yeah, look out for Jason West. He is a phenomenal runner, probably the fastest guy on the course. He's in 5th place, he's often on the podium.
Can he make up just under 3 minutes though?
Yeah, it'll be difficult, but I would say 90 seconds plus he can do. And so if, Eric and Jamie will benefit by the fact that they are pushing each other for the overall win. Jason's traditionally coming from behind.
Okay, eyes on the Pro Am now. And there's our 2nd place Churut. Haley is out there, a pro since 2013.
So we still don't have the absolute confirmation that Heather Jackson is either out or down with a flat tire, some kind of mechanical, but she was in second.
For her as well, by the way. This is almost like a home race, given her sponsorship deal here and the fact that she's raced here a number of times before as well. But these things happen.
Well, they do, and I'm not sure if they'll, if Willie Stewart, if he doesn't get his biker in, just goes out and gets a run and enjoys the day here anyway. I mean, that's one of the challenges of technology. And particularly when you're on a relay team, you're physically wanting to make sure that you've got the opportunity to maybe get out there and use that run. And often athletes, if that happens, they'll just take their chip off and go for a run anyway because they're already here. So we do believe that Chura is now in second place. Jackson, we don't have the update on where she's at. And just where is Sam Long, who's coming through the field? Will he have a chance to catch through? But you know, some great runners coming up here. So tell us a little bit about Paul. He's going to be running here shortly. But I know you said you saw him warming up and you have a long relationship together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking over now. He's actually still in front of us warming up. He's smiling. And Paul is, like, he's an elite combat sports athlete. Like, it doesn't get much tougher when you've got from athleticism with someone kicking, punching, wrestling you at the same time. He's someone that's headlined events for the UFC as well. So typically, the athletes over there will do 3 5-minute rounds. Paul has done 5-minute rounds under the big bright lights with 15 to 20,000 people watching. But interestingly, yesterday, when I had a quiet word with Paul, he said he was really nervous about this, and that blew me away.
Well, you know, I think part of it is, you know, he and Lionel have a positive relationship. So the fact that you see Lionel going by Haley, don't get confused. There's a double loop out there. And what's happening is he's on the completion now. So Sanders is on the way home.
He's coming home.
Haley still has to do that loop a second time. So that gap is about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4 kilometers that he is ahead. So Lionel Sanders is absolutely just pounding it down. He traditionally has worn green. You know, that was his color. The company that spent a lot of investment time in him is Freshie. It's a health food restaurant chain that started in Canada but now has more actual franchises in the United States and around the world, and I eat there regularly. It's great food. Lionel wants him to open one up down the street from him in Tucson, Arizona, because he loves to eat their stuff, and there you can just see the gap he's already put on Haley. He's now probably already 50 meters ahead, and he's headed towards the finishing line. So your buddy Paul better get ready to run. He wanted to you know, set a PB today in the 10K. And I understand it's a relatively fast run, other than there's one little hump over the overpass over the freeway,
which you got to do twice though, because it's a loop.
And if you appreciate it, those things still eat into you when you're trying to, you know, every second when you're trying to set a PB, you generally want to absolutely pancake flat course.
So Sanders is absolutely ripping it down here on the streets of Los Angeles, tackling just a few turns here, navigating his way through the course as we see the street art behind him. That's fascinating as well, isn't it? This is beautiful pictures here from Los Angeles here on Sunday morning.
And while Lionel's tearing up the bike pavement, Eric Lagerstrom and Jamie Riddle from South Africa, Lagerstrom from the United States. These two men are battling for the overall victory here today in the elite field in a race that has been won by many, many of the sport's greatest men ever in the last 40 years. Sanders very close to the end of this 40-kilometer bike ride. It'll be very interesting to see what his bike split is.
Getting nice and aero, consistent power down.
He'll be under an hour, and again, if you've just set your country's national 1-hour record on a velodrome, you know, at 51 kilometers plus an hour, you know how to hold that kind of position here. And his bike handling skills have really improved. You know, 4 or 5, 6 years ago, I remember when he was racing Jan Frodeno in Oceanside. Frodeno took almost a minute out of him in the last 10 kilometers when they got back into town and had the technical section. So, you know, he spent many, many hours on a Wahoo and on a trainer.
Yeah.
That doesn't make your bike handling skills any better. It makes your powerful legs stronger, but it doesn't necessarily do anything to help you improve going around corners. So he has worked on that. He spent a fair amount of time this year in Arizona. I'd see him out on his bike getting these 200-kilometer rides in, and his favorite ride in Tucson, Arizona is famous Mount Lemmon. It's 26 miles from the bottom to the top, and he and Sam Long have 2 of the fastest times in the history ever up this mountain.
King of the mountain.
Yeah, like it is 43 to 44 kilometers. There's a ski hill at the top. It's the most southern ski hill in America, and I saw 2 or 3 times.
Ski hill was enough when you talk cycling, right?
Yeah. I saw 2 or 3 times this year when we got up to the top. They were skiing at the top of Mount Lemmon, but traditionally they get about 6 or 7 ski days there a year, just because it's 105 degrees down below in the middle of the summertime.
Of course, it's not a technical course here, but there are probably a few things that you see on the roads of Los Angeles that you might not do on a typical Ironman course. There's a lot of paint out there, a lot of drains.
Well,
the road surface is not the greatest quality. I saw Ben Canute, I think it was, did a rundown of this course, and he said it does get a little rough at times, particularly downtown. So just something to be aware of.
Well, those cones getting narrower, meaning that they're getting very close to the end of this 40-kilometer ride. You can see the runners heading out there, and that's runners from the elite field. So
I think that Lionel Sanders has gone so fast. He's left the bike behind. He's left the motorcycle behind now.
Well, this is the challenging part now for the technology guys, and that is you've got a narrow gap out there, and Sanders is ahead of him right now. He's just want to make sure.
He's coming in. He's coming into T2 now.
Well, Team Sanders then approaching T2 here after being led off so brilliantly, of course, by Haven Shepherd. They're about 2 minutes down, weren't they, on Team Jackson and Team Chura, but have made up a lot of time like we expected. Vicky, now obviously Lionel, Team Sanders will hand over to Paul Felder for the final leg on the run, and he's going for a PB, isn't he?
That's what he said his real aim is for the day. He's new to the sport still. We still don't know exactly what to expect from him. He's talked about targeting that sub 40-minute barrier today. That could be enough to bring him home the victory, but we have got some other runners that might actually be able to, you know, close that gap down again.
Yeah, well, Paul was saying, I think, to John and our commentary team, he was like, you know what, I'd like to go sub 40, but I've got 30 miles in the legs from training this week, which actually, Paul, I'm going to say, is not a lot of running. So maybe it's a taper week for him. But let's speak about Heather Fell then. Obviously, we're going to see her coming out onto the 10K, and she's got a PB of around 37 minutes, back from 2018, though. Do you think she's in that kind of shape?
Heather's always in relatively good shape. She does a lot of endurance running, ultra running. She runs ultra marathons. So I'm no doubt that Heather's in good run shape. 37 minutes, so with that kind of factored in, we're looking at about maybe a 3-minute difference between them. Depends how Daniel Beckergaard's attacked this bike. We know that he came out the water, or that his teammate came out the water in 5th, handed over to him in 5th. It might be a little bit too much for him to overcome today, so it's probably going to be interesting to see if Paul can hold on.
And then a few unknowns as well, of course. Team Long, we've got Rudy Garcia Tolson. I mean, we don't really know individually on the 10K what he's capable of, but we know he's a true champion.
Absolute champion, 4-time Paralympian, multiple medalist. He's just an absolute inspiration, so I really think we shouldn't underestimate him.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see how they get on this final leg, then a 10K run. We'll head back to John and Barry to take you through it.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So there is former UFC fighter, lightweight fighter Paul Felder, one of the very best at 155 pounds before he decided to hang up the gloves. And he's got a good turnover there, Barry. I mean, that adrenaline has definitely spiked when he saw the grit and determination, plus, of course, the performance of Lionel Sanders coming through T2.
Well, now it's going to be important that he understands that this is 10 kilometers, you know, not do a similar situation that we saw in Jamil Hill, our super sprinter in the water for the first 100 meters, and eventually realize that last 10 minutes in the water was tough. But this is a very nice, efficient, economical run. You know, he's got a great turnover happening right now. You'll see a couple of the athletes coming up from behind him are going to be pros. So when he gets past,
no pressure.
Yeah, but when he gets past, don't go, oh my God, you know, how's he getting past? He's getting passed by a pro triathlete who does this full time for their living, and he'll be able to use a couple of those guys for reference. You know, if he can just find one of their backs and just kind of see how close he can stay. Because right now they've got a sizable gap. I don't see anybody catching Team Felder and Sanders' team. Now it's just a matter of, you know, can Paul set his lifetime PB on this run course today? And what a wonderful trio raising money for a great charity.
And look at him keep checking his data as well. So clearly trying to pay attention to his pacing as we see the back of Sam Long.
Just went through Haley, so he's moved into 2nd place. So Sam Long is having a spectacular ride out there as well. And I guarantee you, he and Lionel Sanders will be looking at each other's bike splits when the day ends. No question about it.
Yeah, great effort there by Sam, as we see Juro there. Nice and aero. Unfortunately, she has surrendered her place now to Sam Long, but We kind of predicted that that might happen.
So Sam Long will be handing off here momentarily to Rudy Garcia Tolson. And, you know, Rudy is this guy's done the Hawaii Ironman. He became the first double leg amputee to do the overall race.
And with Sam Long as well, he does have a connection to the CAF Foundation. He actually spent a week with them last year training with their triathlon team. So that, again, it's just been wonderful to see this connection come back around and for him to be participating today with the CAF athletes.
That was Andy Starkowitz just going around the corner there. And it's 2 loops for these athletes out there, so they've got to go back around a second time. But there's some phenomenal running. There's Daniel just out on the course right now. These guys have to go back around a second time.
Tight turn as well. We saw those flailing arms as they were looking to come back on themselves. And that must be the hill because Paul Felder has slowed up somewhat. I guess that's where they go over the highway.
Yeah, they're over top of the highway. Look at the tag there. This is a good job, my man. Felder trying to hold on, and they'll go back down. So that's a fairly intense little hill. Like, it's about at 18 or 20% grade, no question about it.
Yeah, Felder was trending towards something close to a 38 10K. If he can get that, according to his Strava, can't help but shake the arms out.
Love the technology there. The guy on the with the camera just coming up beside. And the battle continues out for the overall race lead between Jamie Riddle and Eric Lagerstrom. We'll try to get another update out onto the course. But a historic win for either of these men. I'm not sure if Eric has won this course before. Jamie has not, so he's gonna be excited if he's able to steal a victory here. I think Eric's the first through one of those mats out on the course. 2XU, one of the great wetsuit companies out there. Paul says, I don't put anything in my body that I haven't checked on. Oh, give it to me. Here we go. Nutrition. You probably.
Oh, it's got to cool down already.
Yeah. Well,
it's getting hot out there for Felder.
It is starting to get warm out here, no question about it. So most of the 8,000 or 9,000 people in the 5K have finished in front of us. The cameras are getting ready at the finish line, knowing that they might even have a sprint finish out there on the course.
So Paul Felder leading the Pro Am right now as we rejoin Sam Long.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit tough for Sam coming in here.
He's got some traffic.
Yeah, he's using his smarts here. I think once he comes through, but that is definitely one of the challenges is that last section. So, you know, Lionel and had the benefit of coming in. Wow, there's Daniel. Daniel and Sam. So Daniel might have one of the fastest bike splits. Well, certainly he's going to be in there as they're coming through. So that is Sam Long and Daniel.
And I think he's just noticed that he's coming through.
He's gonna, let's see if he responds here. This is an area that they will not worry about drafting because they just literally cannot get away from each other. As they get into the narrow sections, the officials will make sure they don't make those extra calls. So this is gonna be a great run out there, no question. Heather Fell gonna be Daniel's athlete to go out. And Sam Long's going to have Rudy Garcia. So those two runners are going to be able to almost be side by side going out onto the run course.
Fantastic stuff here out in Los Angeles with two of the very best and most recognizable faces of triathlon side by side as they aim to get to T2 as quickly as they possibly can and hand over to their partners. There is the bike dismount. They got some company out there as well. They've got to try and get through the field. Daniel's trying to navigate through. He went the right way in the end, he thinks. Lots of pointing and looking around.
Yeah, no, there's no question. Here come some of the elite women off the bikes right now. So it's turning into a fun 3-ring circus. Obviously, if this was the Olympics, you'd have it clean and only just the field. But part of the fun of a, 10,000 person weekend is that you've got the guy who's literally just bought some running shoes a few weeks ago and they're running, right beside a Sam Long or coming off the bike next to a Daniel Beckengard, etc. So that's just a reality. And there's Haley coming off. So she's coming off right now in 4th place.
Yes, and Haley will be handing over to Roderick Sewell. And there are our two PTO athletes, Daniel Beckergaard and Sam Long, exchanging notes as we see our CAF athletes go out.
There's Rudy. You can see the double leg amputee right there, just heading off. Heather Fell will be just ahead of him. And we're coming up on about the time, I would suggest, in the next 4 to 5 minutes, that our overall race winner, will it be Eric, will it be Jamie, or will we see somebody else come through? I know Rodriguez, Gonzalez Rodriguez is out there, a few other superstars that have been Olympians racing in this field this weekend.
There's our leader for the Pro Am, Paul Felder, wearing that number 1. Got handed over from Lionel Sanders, a man who has been putting in a lot of work. He's done 30 miles of running, as Rachel pointed out, but he's also been doing some ocean swimming as well with the guys. And it's not just any old training session as well when you're in the water with Lionel Sanders. So I think that Paul's been pushing himself, but absolutely loving his triathlon journey. And to be led by someone like Lionel Sanders, on the one hand, of course, it's incredible, but at the same time, to try and hang with a pro of that level, with the attitude that Lionel has, I know that they're sort of kindred spirits, but you know, to give Paul his dues, like, fight sports is very different to the endurance nature.
Well, it's done in 3 minutes, you know, multiple bouts, whereas you've got to be able to sustain something for an hour or two, or up to 8 hours if it's Ironman. So there's different energy systems for sure. World-class athletes like Paul can, you know, make that conversion, but it doesn't happen overnight. Now this is a 2-loop 5-kilometer run, so we're going to start seeing some of the elite athletes out on the course.
Oh, and there's Heather Fell,
Olympic Games silver medalist, I think, from way back in 2008 in modern pentathlon.
Yeah,
so,
she's an absolute gangster in terms of her athletic achievements. And of course, if you squint and look in a bit closer, you will notice her from the Global Triathlon Network as well. One of the lead presenters over there. I very much enjoy their content, but she's a formidable competitor.
Well, I got to know modern pentathlon a little bit better. Triathlon superstar Sheila Taormina went to the 1996 Olympics, won a gold medal in swimming in the 4x200, then the 2000 and 2004 Olympics in triathlon, and then she wanted to do something that no one has ever done, go to 3 different Olympics in different sports, 3 different sports. So she went swimming in 96, triathlon in 2004, and then made the Olympic Games in modern pentathlon in Beijing. And this woman, at those same games, won the silver medal.
She's all smiles here. She, according to Strava, I was stalking her Strava, looks like she might be able to post sub 40, and that is one of the Roos brothers that takes the turn on this 10K Olympic distance triathlon.
Well, at 1:45 on my watch, I'm anticipating anywhere in the next 3 to 4 minutes, we're going to have the overall men's champion coming in at the end of the day. There's Ben Collins, and anybody who's followed the sport, this man probably won more Olympic distance non-drafting races in about a 5-year window than anyone else in the history of the United States racing.
Still going strong as well.
He said he's coming to the end of his 10-year term of being on the U.S. board of U.S. Triathlon. So, you know, not only is he a phenomenal athlete, he also was a part of the Para Games in terms of being a guide. And so what's happened now is these great athletes like Ben and others, people are looking for to be the guide of a sighted team. And so you're looking for somebody who's got to be incredibly fit themselves just to be able to go as fast as, you know, the blind athlete at the Para Games.
Paul Felder there, continuing his 10K run to bring this home for team number 1, Team Sanders, comprised of Haven Shepherd, our CAF athletes, Lionel Sanders, of course, and Paul Felder. Been a great day so far, lots of smiles, but we can't forget the competitive nature of each and every one of those that have taken part in this Pro-Am.
Now just fast forward, just imagine 6 years from now, just a little over 6 years from now, the Olympic Games are going to be here in LA. I mean, we're 2 years away now from Paris, but in 6 years back in LA. And You know, you think back to the amazing things that have happened here in past sports, but the Olympic Games are that special next level, and some of the venues are already just going to be retrofitted, some new things built. But there's no doubt the United States will do a phenomenal job, and LA will just be one of those epic places that the world will want to come and spend a couple of weeks. I've been to the last 5 or 6 Olympic Games, and you know, there's nothing more than having all these people from around the world enjoying each other's energy, enjoying the culture, and Los Angeles and Venice Beach and all of the iconic places that people have. I mean, it won't just be the Olympics for sport, it'll be this cool thing to come and spend 21 days and enjoy the beauty of Los Angeles and of California.
And it just changes the landscape of sport as well. Everyone just gets so involved, and it kicks on. Obviously Team USA just strong every single time, but I can't help but think it's going to help elevate things even more, get more participation.
Well, a country invests more money when the Olympic Games come there. I think about what happened in Australia, the great facilities, and then all these athletes that came. The UK, there's no question. If you look back in about, say, maybe about 2004, you know, UK did not do great at the Olympic Games, but they certainly did by the time we got to London.
Yes.
You know, and I think back, and here is Riddle, who right now we're trying to understand if this is our leader, but that is a phenomenal race from that South Africa, and this would be the biggest win of his career.
He's powering home in the last few meters of this 10K, of this Olympic distance triathlon. He's starting to smile now as he takes a look over his shoulder, looking to bring it home all the way over from South Africa. Problems with the bike. Jamie Riddle pumps the air as he comes home at the Herbalife24 here in Los Angeles.
Oh,
nice. A little shadow boxing across. I like that as well. Congratulations to him. He wins the elite men's here this morning.
1 hour 49 minutes right on that window. Probably got himself a couple blisters there while he's got the shoes off. But that is a phenomenal run for that man. That probably is the biggest victory of his very young career already. And here comes Eric Lagerström. That is a great performance by Eric. He's just continued to get himself back into better and better shape over the last year and a half. And I know that his partner Paula Finley will be cheering on right now as less than 30 seconds back. Eric Lagerström on the podium again, and that is a great sign for his career.
Fantastic effort from Eric. So 1 and 2 over the line. Riddle was 4th here in 2021. Lagerström was 5th. They have been looking at one another again here on the streets of Los Angeles and have helped each other propel themselves onto the podium.
Well, there the athletes are on the final 10K stretch then of this PTO Pro Am, of course, and it's Olympic distance relay. And we know that Daniel Bakkegaard and Sam Long, they came into T2 pretty much neck and neck, and then obviously handed over to their final leg athletes, and one of them was Rudy Garcia Tolson. Let's find out a little bit more about his story.
At the age of 5, I remember, looking at my parents and telling them, let's cut my legs off. It was such an easy black and white decision for me to say to cut my legs off that I don't think my parents or the doctors were ready for that. There wasn't no medical terms behind it. It was cut my legs off so I can get out of the hospital and maybe live, a normal life. My lowest of lows, I feel like has been almost with me since I was born. When I was born, I had multiple birth defects. My hands were webbed, I had a cleft lip and palate, and my legs were the most challenged. They were bent at the knee, so I was unable to stretch my legs out. And the doctors from birth told my parents to cut my legs off through the knee, but my parents refused because they didn't want me to come back later in my life and question why they cut my legs off. So at that point, I essentially grew up in a hospital. The doctors tried a bunch of different procedures to try to fix and correct my legs. I just knew that if I was going to get out of this hospital, I needed to remove my legs through the knee. I remember the night before the big operation, and I would write a goodbye note on both of my feet because it was literally the last time I was going to see my real feet. Shortly after, my legs healed up, I finally was able to get my first pair of prosthetic legs, and a whole new world opened up for me. Around that same time is when I got involved in sports, and sports has been very instrumental in my life from a young age. Swimming was the first sport that I got into prior to having my legs amputated. It was a natural thing to jump into the pool because I was able to take my prosthetic legs off and to be free in the water. I didn't have to think about my legs, so it was a very natural thing for me to enjoy the water. But at the same time, I wanted to do more. So, I got my first pair of running prosthetics, and I would do these 1 mile fun runs, and it would take me 20 to 25 minutes, and I would literally be the last kid to come across the finish line. If anybody's ever been in a race, the top of your mind is, okay, don't come last, don't come last. And here I was coming last across the finish line, and it gave me something to shoot for, and that was to beat one kid. That's all I wanted to do in these races. I just wanted to beat one kid who had 2 real legs. A question that I get a lot is would I be the same person if I had 2 real legs? And the short answer is no way. I think I would be just a normal guy just getting by. I don't think I would have the same type of drive. I don't think I would have the same mentality that I do now versus if I had 2 real legs. And I think for me, growing up, being different, it took a while for me to accept that, but after accepting it, there's power in inspiring people, there's power in motivating people, and at the end of the day, the world needs motivation, the world needs inspiration, and if I can provide a small glimpse of that, then my job is done.
And welcome back. So just before we speak about the very inspirational Rudy Garcia-Tolson, just to update you, 3rd place in the elite men's was Stephen McKenna, the 30-year-old Australian who's actually ranked 65th in the PTO rankings. I think he goes under the nickname of Lizard. Normally has a middle distance ambition, but comes in for a very good 3rd place today here in Los Angeles.
Well, I had a chance yesterday to talk to Rudy at one of the functions, and my first memory of him was racing with Robin Williams on a relay team many years ago, and he says he's still very close with Robin Williams' entire family, rhymed off each of the kids, what they're doing, where they're at in school, whatever the case may be, where they're currently living at. And that was one of the inspirations for him to get started in the sport. And he said Robin Williams used to buy him Game Boys all the time, and now Robin Williams' kids are buying him Game Boys.
Of course, Rudy Garcia-Tolson has been on the Oprah show. She is inspired by him and has been ever since he was a young boy, if you like. And I'm just going to list some of his achievements, just so that we can get some kind of perspective. 5-time Paralympian, 5-time Paralympic medalist, gold medal and world record in Athens, first double above knee amputee to complete an Ironman triathlon, which is the Arizona back in 2009, and he's been nominated for an ESPY, which my side of the globe, I still respect what that means here in North America. So just an outstanding competitor and a total inspiration the world over, and he's mentored many folks from the CAF Foundation, and he continues to do so.
I mean, look at the pace he's going at. These runners that are trying to come up on him are not blowing by him. They are, having to work to get by him. He told me that he's going to Portugal, Madeira, Portugal this fall for the 20th World Champs in swimming, and then he'll focus just on triathlon after that. But what a just incredible man, incredible athlete, no question about it.
And he's from these parts as well, but he's actually never competed around here, so he may be seeing some familiar faces supporting him on his run as he comes back in, trying to bring his team over the line. He was looking to chase down Paul Felder. I think that Lionel Sanders' bike ride maybe gapped it just a little bit too much. but he might be. I'm sure they're going to pass one another because this is, of course.
Well, it's a double loop course. You see each other out there, no question about it. What's impressive with the CAF is that they have spent literally millions of dollars on chairs, on legs, on wheels to help athletes get in sport. And how impressive is that? You know, life-changing. I mean, not only did these people inspire us, but they had to get that equipment. These legs are not inexpensive. These bikes are not inexpensive. And, you know, Bob Babbitt and his team have worked tirelessly for the last 20-plus years.
And incredible stuff. And that we were talking about Rudy, and after he decided to amputate his legs, when he got given some prosthetics, he was then at the same eye line as everyone else that he'd been looking up to. All of a sudden he was able to look down, but looking up right now is Paul Felder as he navigates his way up the hill here in Los Angeles, keeping that pace, looking pretty good.
And he's blowing by these age group athletes. I mean, he is having a very, very solid run, no question about it. I don't see anybody being able to challenge Paul's team. The Team Sanders, I think, is going to claim the first ever Pro Am victory. But this is just absolutely amazing. And in the next about 45 minutes, that road will be just covered with bodies because these guys are still early off the bike. I mean, they're over the next 20 or 30 minutes. And Heather Fell is absolutely having a phenomenal
charging.
run.
Look at her go. So, I mean, she's coming downhill there. But again, I think she'll be looking at her splits against the others that are running today, particularly probably Paul Felder and why not. She actually did a mixed relay with the GTN crew, but also with Mark Matthews, Kat Matthews' husband. And interestingly, one of the latest pieces of content they put out was that she caught up with Gwen Jorgensen, the legend, and she took some running tips from her. They were doing some warm-up drills, etc. So I wonder if she put that into practice today before she laced up her shoes proper to get going out here on this Pro-Am.
Well, you know, right now, if you had to go to some kind of battle, you were in the best position you could ever have. You've got Paul, who can do almost anything with his hands in terms of mixed martial arts. This woman knows how to shoot a gun and defense. And if you have to get away on a horse,
over 3,200 meters as well. Yes, indeed. Isn't it just like we have some wonderful athletes here, from like the water to land as well.
Just in front of us, I can see Bob Babbitt standing here, big smiles as he's looking out at many of his athletes who finished up the day here. The Challenge Athlete Fund, they've handed out almost $7 million of grants just this year. I mean, that is absolutely brilliant out there, no question. And we're in the downtown streets of LA right now. I got to see one of my heroes just across, Wayne Gretzky's big poster, his big bronze statue is just across.
And also just another note on Heather, as we see the women, the elite women coming in at the turn. Heather just encapsulates what we all feel about triathlon. From someone that was doing different disciplines, she found her way into just a love for triathlon. It may well have been, I might have got this wrong, but I think it's through broadcasting actually, on the Olympic broadcast, really then tuned into triathlon, decided to become a participant, and then of course joining up with GTN and having her own ambitions as well. Fantastic stuff, and great, and triathlon needs these representatives like Heather, credentialed Olympic athletes that can then talk about this wonderful sport as well.
Well, what's interesting is just the divergence, the many, many levels in the last 5 or 6 years of triathlon. I mean, if you think way back, it initially was, you know, the Hawaii Ironman, the Ironman, and then the World Triathlon Organization got the sport into the Olympic Games, and all the incredible things that have happened, the countries that have got started, the worldwide coverage because of that. But now things like Super League and then the PTO, and if you think about what the PTO has done, I mean, they are bringing equality in terms of prize money. They have brought, for the first time ever, into women's triathlon maternity leave.
Outstanding.
You know, the chance, and there are women that are off right now that have been racing elite that for the first time will have maternity funds while they're away from their sport, and why should they not? So, you know, there is record amount of money being handed out by the PTO in this next year. The incredible Collins Cup, that'll be back in Europe in the middle of the summer. We're going to be up in Edmonton for the PTO Canadian race there with $1 million prize purse. Then in Dallas in the fall. I mean, the sport has never had as many opportunities for people.
And it's bringing people together as well, right, Barry? Because that's a really interesting part about this, is that the athletes themselves are all part of this.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And, you know, there have been many opportunities in the past for athletes to try to create some kind of an association or whatever, but really they're incredibly busy. You know, you've trained for an Ironman. You know how difficult that is. Try to be doing that, raising a kid, going after sponsorship and everything else. It's just incredibly difficult. So the fact that Sam and Adam and the gang have all been able to go through.
Oh no, I think that Heather's gone the wrong way. She's coming.
No, she's there's no way she's coming in.
Oh, she's just added. That's going to ruin. That's going to ruin her Strava.
Well, there we go. I mean, we wanted to give Paul a chance to make sure that she didn't run through him.
Oh no, poor Heather. I mean, it's all in good spirits today, but of course, if you're going to do it, you want to do the very best that you can. And she has just added a few extra meters.
Yeah, there's no question, a few extra seconds. We're going to see some of the elite men now starting to make their way. There's Ari, that's Lionel Sanders' training partner right there.
But there's Rudy.
Rudy going to make the
up
turn.
Some time as well. And what happened there with Heather, you know, losing some time. He's managed to gain some ground.
Let's make sure that Rudy does the turn here.
Orientates himself correctly.
No, Rudy has gone through as well. Somebody has to turn it back there.
Not quite.
Yeah. So there are signage there because I went through, but when you're caught up in the energy and the cameras are around you, there's a sign that says first lap or to the finishing line, and that's the challenge of you see somebody going to the finish, but they're already a lap ahead of you.
And there is our Pro-Am race leader, Paul Felder.
And I've been watching. He's kept the same virtual about 160 turnover rate, which is quite high. That is what we're talking about. How many times does his feet touch the ground in a minute? And so joggers like me are about 130 to 145. Elite athletes maybe up around 175 times a minute their feet hit the ground, and Paul's in that kind of 160 plus range. So he is much beyond just an average jogger out there. He's doing a fantastic job today.
Well, of course, as combat athletes, they do a lot of road work with their weight management and of course for general
fitness
levels. But Paul has never been one to run from a fight, I can tell you that. And now, interestingly, if ever you upset him, you can't take to the water, you can't get away from him on the road. He'll catch up with you and let him know his thoughts.
Well, Heather's having a fantastic run, and she's actually going through some of the elite women. Just ahead of her, I just saw one of the yellow bibs. So, I mean, she is running, you know,
at a fair clip.
The difficult aspect of television is just understanding how fast was Lionel Sanders biking. But here Heather is actually going through one of the elite women on the field today. So she's having an absolutely ripper of a run.
Yeah, and she's going to probably feel responsible in making up a little bit of time here as well after that wrong turn.
I think that's Alexandra Watt right there. She was 15th at Ironman Florida, so catching a little bit of television time. And with these two loops in about the next 45 minutes, it's going to be a zoo out there, because you'll go from right now maybe about 400 people out on the course to about 4,000 people on the run course at the exact same time. So it's a little bit easier right now if you can stay out there on the course. You don't have to go around as many bodies. And we saw that. There's Roderick on the other side. Fantastic job for Roderick. He's a double leg amputee, did Kona in 2019. And I talked to him last night. I mean, his kind of famous story was his mother actually had to move in to a homeless shelter for him to actually get legs, because she couldn't afford it. If they were living in this homeless shelter, he was able to get finance for it.
Quite unbelievable stuff. And just getting an update now from the truck to tell us that Heather Jackson did not make it home. So Sky Munch has handed over. So we got 5 out of the 6 teams that are out on the course still. So hard luck on Heather. Sometimes that is the rub.
Well, I can see many of the relay team athletes getting here towards the finish line in front of our commentary booth.
Oh, and we see that we have our lead women coming in.
This
right
Lopez,
now.
yeah,
Vitoria's coming in, the Brazilian.
Not a surprise. It was my pre-pick. I mean, she's just a world-class athlete. She had that fantastic swim out of the water. Not dissimilar to on the men's side. We saw that Eric and Jamie were first out of the water, and they led through the entire day. And this will be adding her name to a fantastic group of women, the McKillie Joneses, the Carol Montgomerys of the world who won on this course here in LA.
So here comes Victoria Lopez to bring it home for the elite women. Crosses the line in impressive fashion. Big smile from her.
2:03 and change. That's a fantastic time on that relatively technical course when you get out there on that bike course. And you're zooming in and out the 180, so that's a very solid time.
And good darts as well, because her last time out at St. Anthony's Try, she finished at 2:03 as well. So very consistent. I don't know that course intimately, but great work from Victoria Lopez, who's really gapped the rest of the field.
Well, the Brazilians have done a great job over the last few years. No question that they've been putting some world-class athletes out into the program.
This is our second place athlete coming in right now.
Going to be just over 2:04. Our second woman across the line. One of the USAT's top up-and-coming athletes, so that's a solid day, no question.
Yeah, I think she and across the line for third position.
So you can just see how close we were there in those top 3 positions. It was very, very close into the finishing line. I think that might have been Amy Sloan just coming in there across the line, and Amy's been on the podium numerous times now over the last couple of years, so she's not a foreigner to podiums. Paul now coming into the late stages of his 10-kilometer run.
Yes, a slightly different pace to what we've just seen from the women who are finishing up. But it looks like he's stretched out from the rest of the field, but still he will be going after his PB here in Los Angeles today.
Many of the relay teams now here at the finishing line to try to come together with the rest of their athletes. That's always a fun part of the day to be able to do that. So Victoria Loops, 2:03.49, I think was her unofficial time. We'll try to give you the update on the balance of the women. As you can appreciate, with 40 kilometers of distance out there, it is not easy to be able to keep track of everybody on the course. Heather Fell continuing with a phenomenal run. And I think she and Paul are going to have pretty similar run splits out there. Paul now on the downhill section. We're going to do our very best to try to bring them in across the line, and a chance to recognize the millions of dollars that are being raised in these kinds of events. I mean, Paul, these marathons that Paul and others go into, they just raise so much money for local charities, and it's important because there are so many organizations, from homeless shelters to you name it, that are benefiting some of the youth programs in LA.
And of course the awareness. I think it's the awareness and the story of this weekend, of the coming together of the able-bodied athletes with the challenged athletes, and then a little bit of star power as well. To bring more eyeballs here to help us understand the achievements and also the work of the foundation, as you've been highlighting, and the impact that it has on sport and communities.
So I'm not sure what they're going to do with Willie Stewart, whether he's going to just go out and run on his own. It looks like Heather Jackson's had some technical problems on her bike and will not finish, get back into town. If I'm Willie, and this is a guy who's literally done the Lead Mill 100, some of the toughest races in the world, he'll probably just run home from here. You know,
I don't have enough paper to put down exactly what he's done in his time. He's a real inspirational athlete, and just I think he's from Boise, Idaho, I believe it. Yeah, he's done a heck of a lot in triathlon, endurance running. Give him a mountain bike and he can do some damage with that as well.
I'm sure Haven and Lionel Sanders will be at the finishing line waiting to claim their first ever Pro Am victory. You can still see on the right side there, look at all the bikers just coming in, right? So, I mean, in the next 10-15 minutes, those streets are going to be just absolutely filled. Just walking in front of us there was Gonzalez from Mexico, the Olympian. So there's some pretty famous people wandering around down here now. The streets are really getting filled. They have a big, huge screen behind us, so all of the amateurs are able to watch the screen and see what's happening, and they'll know that Paul's getting closer and closer to the finishing line.
The fluorescent runners of Paul Felder. one foot after the other, but he's looking in great shape.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
blowing by these age group athletes, and essentially, he's, how old would Paul be at this point?
Late 30s.
Yeah, so, this is not a 25-year-old. Now, having said that, you're looking at the Jan Ferdinos who are still, winning major races into their 40s. Craig Alexander, I think, is about 46, still, being on the podium on a regular basis. So 40 is just a new number for these guys because they stayed in phenomenal shape through all of their lives, no question.
And make no bones about it, Paul Felder is here in triathlon
to
win.
Yeah, for real.
He's not transitioning across just for fun necessarily. Like, he's a competitor, and he can do many things with his life. He's earned the right through his athletic pursuits, his fight career, to have choices, and he's choosing triathlon because he's just captivated by the sport itself and the players within. So the age group division needs to look out for Paul Felder because he's coming for you, and he's got some fighting to back it up.
Well, there you can see him. He's getting closer to the finishing line right now, and he's trying to work his way through the crowd. When you look at some of the things that age group athletes are able to do, I just saw one of the athletes from Europe, 70 years of age, went a 2:54 marathon.
Oh, look at this guy who's coming side by side with that shirtless. He's really bringing it home. I wonder if Paul will be looking at him going, okay, buddy, help me bring this one home.
Well, they realize they're getting very close. There's Paul, so you know that he's getting very close to the finishing line right now. They're making the left, so here he is. He's looking up. And this is going to be...
Yes, coming home to take first position for Team Sanders. Paul Felder crosses the line. Congratulations to them. Great effort all round from that team.
That's a new PB for him for 10 kilometers. I talked to him before the day, and I know what he needed to finish. He's about a minute plus faster than he hoped to run today.
Is he really? Congratulations
and that
to
is,
the Iron Lung, as we call him, Paul Felder. He too is no stranger to the hurt. The fight game he's broken limbs. He's had a cracked rib which pierced his lung, and it didn't deter him. He carried on and fought to the end, and he fought hard on the course this morning to bring home first position for Team Sanders. And
well,
what a great achievement.
There they are.
And there we see the team.
What a great picture that is, no question about it. And Haven did a phenomenal job getting started. How nervous was she? The young woman from Vietnam got adopted by an American family, 6 siblings, got her into sport, and what a great swim she had out there today. I mean, that's really what got the team started. She had such a great swim, and then we had no doubt that Lionel Sanders was going to be a beast on the bike, but we thought that he might have been starting another 5 minutes further back, but Haven did such a fantastic job, and boy, Paul was just able to enjoy that entire run, didn't have any stress out there on that run course today, and he set a new PB for 10K.
Yeah, and I think if I know anything about Paul, I'm not necessarily thinking that he was looking over his shoulder, but he wanted to beat his previous time. It's be better than you were yesterday, right? And if what you're saying is right with that split, then he's done so he should be very proud of himself for that achievement. And then he's got the bonus, of course, racing alongside Haven Shepherd and Lionel Sanders, propping up the team, adding to their victory today, as we see Heather Fell coming home looking strong in her run.
Boy, she does. It's been a fantastic run for her out there today, and you and I both know that when you get on the other side of the camera and you're spending all those hours in production meetings, how much time gets chewed up. So good for her that she's been able to keep her fitness at such a world-class level.
Yeah, well, this is actually her 119th run this year.
Oh my goodness.
I've seen that she's covered nearly 11,500 kilometers. She's an endurance athlete, but she's coming home in a 10K, as we see Rudy.
Oh, look at the high five there, right? Rudy's
nice.
Rudy's paying respect. He knows he's not going to catch Heather. But the two of them have great respect for each other, no question. And that's the energy we have felt here this entire weekend, from the start to the finish. As soon as you got to the hotel, there was an energy out there. The various, production meetings, these athletes came out and signed autographs. They had a couple of suppers and got to know each other. Because in many cases you might hear about these other people, but you didn't ever have a chance to have some meal and catch up and find out about their families.
Yeah, and share some of the war stories as well. I see in that screen there our winning team now just breaking down the race, perhaps. All smiles there.
Paul's looking pretty excited there. I think he felt nervous, and all three of those guys rose to the occasion today. Starting with Haven. Sanders, we knew, he's in great shape, great form. We knew that he'd have another brilliant day, and Paul was able to rise to the occasion of those other two athletes. So what an all-star team. And these things are just getting put together, really not knowing most of the individuals. They'd never met each other in most cases, other than obviously Lionel and Paul had a little bit of a relationship coming in, but most of these teams just met each other yesterday.
Yeah, and Paul was very non-committal with me about his intentions here this morning, but then I saw the film that PTO were doing, the kind of build-up behind the scenes this week, and Lionel laid it down from, Paul's here to get a PB in his 10K. So if Paul didn't know he was doing that, then Lionel certainly set that up for him, and he's being mentored, so he didn't want to disappoint.
He likes to set some efforts, no question. So right there, we're looking at Heather Fell, and she has been battling for about the last 3 kilometers with one of the elite women, Alexandra Watts, who's literally, with the camera pulls ahead, is about 5 seconds ahead. So the two of those women have been battling it out there on the course. What I'm saying is Heather's having a fantastic run.
Yeah, to be in that company for this 10K.
There's the high five. Rudy must be going on the other side, or maybe she's just getting some recognition from others.
Oh, it's Cyril that she saw on the other side.
We've got athletes over the age of 80 years of age racing on this age group course. It is just the spectrum from start to finish. We saw some young kids out there in the 5K earlier this morning. I think the numbers are well over 10,000 between the various 5Ks, bike rides, triathlon. It's a nightmare for an organizing people, but they've done a brilliant job. I can't believe how well this has worked. There's been a few little hiccups, but you cannot have that much road all the way from Venice Beach right to downtown LA and not have, some little hiccup. And unfortunately, Heather Jackson having that hiccup today with a flat tire.
Yes, but she'll be arriving back in this, well, it's festival vibes as I look around from our commentary position, which is just beyond the finish line. Really is very, seeing in front of us one of the finishers embracing his partner, celebrating his achievements today. Lots of people will be coming away smiling with new records set, ticks off the bucket list perhaps. But then on the other side, the thrill and the agony, right? People that have missed out. Obviously we heard about Heather having a problem on the bike earlier on, so she wasn't able to bring it back into T2 to hand over.
So there's the battle. Heather's had a beautiful situation. She's been chasing right there Alexandra Watt for about the last 4 kilometers, almost using her as an absolute, kind of string to just keep pulling her along, etc.
Yeah, they're tethered to one another right now, aren't they, as they descend this hill.
Anyone who's kind of raced a lot knows that if you can just get one other person, maybe they're just kind of running your pace, letting them kind of, use some of their energy. And we'll see many of these elite athletes in Edmonton in July at the PTO Canadian Open. That's a city that has hosted world championships 3 times. Some of the biggest athletes ever to race in the sport have been in Edmonton.
And we can see in the small screen there. Are we there, Barry? If we wave, can you guys at home see us?
We're in that white tent, just there.
We're right in amongst it.
Right by Tom's, right there.
We can feel the energy here.
Yeah.
And the heat is rising here in Los Angeles, particularly for Heather Fell, the 2018 age group gold medalist in the European Championships in triathlon.
Well, her modern pentathlon days back in 2008 are impressive to me. To be able to take those 5 sports again, you've got to be able to ride a horse, you have to be able to fence, you have to be able to shoot, and then to swim and to run. To be able to do all 5 of those at a world-class level. I mean, any one of those sports to master is difficult to put all 5 in as a modern pentathlon.
And 3,200 meters of running on the modern pentathlon. So it's not a 10K.
Rudy is not letting up here. That is an impressive man, and I saw him do this in Hawaii. This guy has done an Ironman race. He is part of historic racing, double leg amputee, and to hear him say, and maybe it's because he was so young when he wrote his name on his feet and said basically bye-bye kind of thing. But his attitude he understands that he is one of those kind of role models for sport. It's one of the first para-athletes I really got to know 20 plus years ago, and you know, we got a little bit of a famous start because Robin Williams was doing relay teams when the kid was 11 years of age. But he is a world-class athlete in his own right, and now he's inspiring many others.
Yeah, and he struggled with that, didn't he? Went through his high school days. It was only in his 20s that he really embraced his role, if you like. And we're ever so grateful that he did so, because he's inspired so many people, continues to inspire people even today.
Now you got to think at the end of 10 kilometers, those hip flexors, you know, and your butt muscles are feeling it, because there's obviously he's built up some incredible capacity, but that still is a motion that you're going to start to feel over a period of time.
And there was an interesting side note as well with another CAF athlete that we haven't seen a great deal of, and that was Roderick Sewell. They became buddies when they were very, very young, and Rudy became his mentor. He helped
with the swim.
Roderick in the swim. He used to swim with him on his back, and then when Rudy had the failed attempt at the Ironman World Championships to make the cutoff, then Roderick took the baton a few years later and actually got it over for them as a partnership, as a team. He was the support crew. So just wonderful to have seen their journey together as CAF athletes, helping reach new heights, smash through those barriers, and put themselves on that world map.
Well, here come the two women that have battled for about the last 6 kilometers. On the left-hand side with the full body suit coming in, that's Alexandra Watt. And just behind her, our second place relay team, Heather Fell of Team Beckegaard, starting off with Ashley Seeley, Daniel Beckengard, now Heather bringing it on home. Second time she'll be at the finishing line. This time it's official. The first time was the wrong turn through the transition area.
So in comes former Olympian Heather Fell from Great Britain over the line to take second place. Big smiles from her. She does it for Team Beckegaard. And Elisa Seeley as well, who started off the day.
She wants her whole relay team there. She wants.
Of course she does, joining her teammates. Great shots there from the finish line. So Team Beckegaard in second place. Great effort from Heather to bring that home. I'm sure she'll be.
Daniel's got a big smile there, right? You know, you can really tell that not just coming here, but this is extra special because of obviously having a brother who's, you know, lost a leg to cancer. I mean, it's that much more important to him.
Yeah, and now they can all share in those stories together and a little debrief. Enjoy that one. I'm sure we're going to be hearing about this on GTN as well. So congratulations to those guys coming in on second place. And I'm guessing that it will be Rudy Garcia Tolson who will be coming home for third in his team.
You know that Sam Long will be waiting for him at the finishing line, no question. He'll be excited. That team got started with Emily Gray.
And I actually see Sam Long now making his way down towards the finish line to join his teammates. You can't really miss Sam Long in the pink, and he's a lofty 6'2".
Yeah, he's a big, tall guy, no question. One of the bigger guys on the circuit.
And Sam is making his way now, but congratulating some of the other teams that are out there.
Here comes Rudy, and he's still moving at a very quick rate. I mean, I'm guessing that he's probably somewhere about a 4:45 kilometer pace. Anybody who goes out and tries to crack off a sub 5-minute run knows that that is moving pretty quickly. Do that minus 2 legs and you're doubly impressed.
Absolutely.
Almost 40 years of racing here in LA. Started this morning out in Venice. What those beautiful pictures coming up on the beach. I was out there many years ago and watched the famous guys doing their muscular workouts out there, and I guess, you know, made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger and all of the big strong guys, but there were some smaller dudes out there just enjoying the smaller barbells when I was out there as well. It's just one of those iconic places that if you do go to LA and to Venice, you got to go down to the beach and check out these big strong guys.
Yeah, I haven't managed to get down there this week. It is top of my hit list of things to do before I go home.
Well, the LA Kings losing out last night, I think, to the Edmonton Oilers, so hockey will come to an end here in this fine city, and
You had to get that in there, didn't
Connor,
you?
I'm a Canadian. Connor McDavid making his way through. Sadly, my Toronto Maple Leafs now for 56 straight years will not win the Stanley Cup. They're the actually longest losing streak of all pro sport at this point.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, 56 years it'll be that they have not won the Stanley Cup. And what an iconic area we're at for basketball, for hockey. You know, the baseball diamond's not too far from here.
And we've got is it the Grammy Museum as well, which is just the other side of the building?
It is, just on the other side. I walked by it yesterday. So, I mean, a lot of really interesting things. There's Magic Johnson. When I was growing up, he was one of my favorite basketball players.
Yeah.
Big documentary coming out on him. And Magic, obviously a fan and a legend here in Los Angeles, part of the Laker many years. And there you can see the legs bouncing back and forth of Rudy Garcia-Tolson as he's making his way pretty close to the finishing line now. This is where he made the wrong turn last time, so he'll make that right-hand turn to the finishing line, and Team Sam Long will be bringing home the bronze medal today here in the Pro Am.
And he makes his final turn this morning to bring it home. Rudy Garcia-Tolson will cross the line in third place for his team, Team Long. Emily Gray, Sam Long, Rudy Garcia. Congratulations to them. A sterling effort. And flexing on the finish line there is Rudy. He is a Californian, doesn't live too far away from here in Bloomington. So many achievements on his resume. And he's going up to Sam Long to congratulate his teammate, and an embrace there with Paul Felder as well. So they're all breaking it down, but we're going to go back out into the course as well and just see
Here's
Robertson,
Roderick.
Rudy Garcia's close friend, who is bringing it home. But time now to hand over to Rachel, who's got the winners with her.
There's a lot going on down here, as you can imagine, at the finish line. Everyone's just congratulating everyone, because that's the vibe here, isn't it? Obviously, super competitive, but super fun as well. And let's just come over here to Team Sons, of course, our champions of the PTO Pro Am. I mean, Lionel, I'll come to you first. And when you look across to your team that was assembled here, Haven obviously leading off, awesome first leg in the swim there, coming in on third, and then Paul, I'm going to wait and see what your PB is. Don't spoil the party just yet. But Lionel, when you saw your team, I mean, what were your thoughts?
Well, I knew they had assembled the wrong team because we were going to dominate this event from start to finish. So it was good. Haven got us a big lead, and then I just tried to hang on to it, and Paul brought it home. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm going to call this team now No Limits team, because Haven, you were saying in your interview, you said, going to the Olympic Games last year was something you'd never imagined. And then you said, now I'm getting to compete with the likes of these guys as well. It just keeps getting better and better. There's no limits, is there?
Yeah, I would definitely say this is the greatest way to go into your late teens. I just turned 18 years old going into my Olympic Games, and then being asked to do this triathlon with these guys. I'm like, okay, why did you ask me? I'm not the most qualified person to be here, but I'm very thankful that they chose me to be on their team.
And what did you make of the swim as well? Coming in only third as well, a couple of minutes behind first place. I mean, awesome swim.
Yeah. It's definitely what I expected it would be. I wanted to go out really nice and smooth, but definitely bring it back home. And I definitely booked it on the way back to shore. But I wasn't aware that Lionel would just be there waiting for me. I thought it would be kind of a casual thing, but he's like, give me your wristband.
Hurry up.
So I rushed in to give him my wristband, and he was off.
You know Lionel, right? He's not casual in the slightest. Paul, let's come to you, because we kind of all know your story about transitioning from the UFC, of course, over to this sport. My first question is, how was the run? Did you get a PB? Did you go sub 40?
I did both of those things. I was, I didn't do any course preview out there. The hills were for real. When you were going up that thing, it was steep. So I knew, okay, I can get sub 40. I was hoping to get closer to 37, but that didn't happen out there on this course. But I ran hard, and I got to run out there with all the pros, and I had such a good start with these guys kicking it off for me. So it was awesome.
And we were saying in commentary, you had 30 miles of training in your legs this week. You were complaining about that. I mean, come on, surely that's a taper week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good week, and I'm also getting ready for 70.3s coming up, so that's the main focus. But I did a lot of speed work for this, so I knew that towards the end I could get a good kick going if it was going to come down to a head-to-head, but it didn't, thanks to this guy on the bike.
They'll be hungry for next time.
Well, let's talk about the bike, because it looked like, we were kind of saying beforehand, what were you going to kind of use that as? It looked like you were going hell for leather out there, because you went past Team Jackson and you didn't even look at her. I think she kind of looked over as if to say, oh, you've gone past me, and you just ignored her, head down.
Power moves at all times. Yeah, we show no weakness, ever.
Tunnel vision, looking straight ahead. But did you look at it as a bit of a time trial, a bit of a training ride out there?
I mean, it was a full-blown competition. I'm here, I knew I would be here trying to compare my bike time to the pros and to Sam Long and to Daniel, and so I rode as hard as I can, and I'm excited to go look at the results and see where I stacked up in the bike portion of the race.
Classic sign of a no limits team here. I mean, great. Thank you so much, guys. You were awesome out there. It was a pleasure to watch all three of you compete, and you made an awesome team, and I'm excited to see you come together in the future as well. Team Sanders, well done, thank you. Woo! 12 minutes behind first place. Awesome swim.
Yeah.
There's second place team, Team Long. Well done to them. But sorry, that's the third place team.
Some good energy out there. The personalities, you can see them through. There's no question.
We've got to talk about some of those things from Lionel Sanders' power moves.
There's Bob, just to catch
times.
before we lose it. Bob Babbitt, the man so famous for helping raise the money for these athletes. And there's Roderick out there. Again, double leg amputee, the first man to finish the Hawaii Ironman. What a brilliant, just to watch his personality, and he's just such an incredible athlete, no question about it.
Yeah, I was talking to Bob about that effort out there in Kona, and he'd never really cycled in the wind, and Bob had said, you need to get out here to Kona and experience the wind before you do it, because it's no joke. And apparently he responded with, it's pretty blowy out here in Central Park. And Bob was like, yeah, kid, it doesn't even compare. And when they actually went out for a little test of the course, it was absolutely still. But come race day, it was super blowy. And Roderick recounts thinking that he couldn't take a hand off to refuel or get any nutrition in because he thought he was going to get blown over.
I've seen athletes literally be blown off the bike, and I've breaking bones, etc. Depending on how the wind is coming in Kona, when you get those days, there's no question.
But he's just built different, right? Just resilient, just that upper body strength that he's got. So he's able to stay true to form and meet the cutoffs and bring it home to do something that has never been done before.
Well, Team Chura, that'll be our fourth place finish out there when they do eventually make their way into the finishing line. It was interesting listening to Lionel. Like, he doesn't take a Pro Am as you could imagine him out there on a golf course, and he actually is quite a good golfer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's taken it up. Erin, his wife, is actually a much better golfer than he is. He doesn't have as much time as he needs to, but he started to golf and was taking it quite seriously, and I know he got a round in about a month ago when I was down in Tucson, just on his off day, so he doesn't have that very often, the chance to do that, but no question.
If I'm getting this right, I think he did a 53.27.
That's Lionel's bike split?
I think that's his bike split.
Well, that would not,
unofficially.
That would not surprise me. I mean, they were moving out there, and I would have suggested somewhere between 52 and 54 minutes, so that is not a big surprise, and that's the kind of, and this is not a fast course. I mean, the pavement's not great. You're going around corners, 180s, having to deal with the cones coming in. So to be able to go that fast, that's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 45 to 46k an hour.
I've got just pulled up here. Daniel Beckergaard was at 56.45.
So 3 minutes slower. And Sam was probably a little.
Here we go, drum roll. And let's see Sam was in 59 minutes. So Lionel Sanders will be sniffing out these results, and he'll be salivating at what he sees there.
Well, it'll be one of the fastest bike times, as we thought, ever in the history of 40 years of the LA Triathlon. But that's the kind of biking that Lionel Sanders puts in. And here comes your man to the finishing line now. He's of less than 100 meters. Good day for Roderick out there, inspiring guy, and a great run for him.
Yes, bringing it home. America's Roderick Seal, first double above knee amputee to finish the Ironman World Championship in 2019, Paralympic swim trials in 2016 and 2020. He brings it across the line for his team. Congratulations to him. A round of applause all round.
I've got the team there. Good job. No question. Haley Chura with a great bike out there today. And again, she filled in at the last minute when Holly Lawrence wasn't able to make it. So, you know, that is a great day. Lettenberg with a great swim out there. What a fantastic team. And Haley Chura being a real trooper because she was supposed to race in the elite race and at the last minute agreed to pop over. So good on her.
Yeah, Harley and Lettenberg are just outstanding in the water this morning to hand over to Haley. Just great work all round for the team. I think it looks like they're giving Willie a run out.
Well, you know, Willie's probably going to run home from here.
So of course we had a mechanical issue for his team, and so there was no handover. But of course, you got to give him a run out here in Los Angeles.
He was a rugby player. He was a climber. You know, he's done everything you can imagine. Skiing is probably the sport actually that he says he's best suited at, that he's done the most of. Had a chance to chat to him yesterday.
He was a Paralympic medalist, wasn't he, in cross-country skiing?
Yeah. 15 times he's done the escape from Alcatraz Triathlon.
I mean, yeah, just a massive inspiration. Continues to work locally as well in Idaho with the CAF Foundation. He and Bob have a very close relationship. And just, I urge you to go and see his achievements, Willie Stewart's achievements. They're quite something. But right now, we're going to hand it back over to Rachel, because I think she's got the second place team with her. Rachel.
Yeah, we have team back and guard, of course, with Alyssa Seeley here, Heather Fell and Daniel, of course, who came through in second place. Guys, congratulations, firstly. Well done. Alyssa, I'll come to you first. Tough swim out there, wasn't it?
It was a bit tough, especially getting through the chalk at the beginning to get to the open water was a challenging feat, for sure.
Yeah, challenging, but you came through in the fifth place there to hand over to Daniel to give him a chance, didn't you? And that chance you did. Let's just talk about the transition there and the bike leg for you, Daniel. I mean, obviously after Alyssa handed over, you had a bit of work to do, but you managed it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was like the first 5 minutes, it was just like pure adrenaline. It just kicked in. After the 5 minutes, it was like, okay, this is going to be a tough one. But then just like riding through like Venice Beach, coming into downtown LA, it's so crazy. It was the craziest experience ever. Cause like you thought just being out there, it's like, okay, I'm actually riding downtown LA right now. Like on closed roads, that would never happen in normal life. So it was so cool to be a part of. And yeah, then you know, in kind of the last section of the bike ride, we started getting some race going with Sam and Heather. So it was that was fun as well. And then, you know, the race mode just kicked on as well, and we had kind of a sprint for. To hand it over to Heather in the last part. It was so fun.
Well, your eyes are really saying it all. You can see exactly how special a moment that was from how your eyes are smiling. But Heather, we'll come to you. 10K was your job today, and we were speaking yesterday about what kind of shape you're in. You said, I haven't been for a run in 2 days, so I have to go and do a shakeout. I don't know if you did you?
I went for a run along Venice Beach last night, and I was like, this is lovely, but it is getting dark, and I'm going to be running in a few hours' time. And I mean, we make videos about how to prepare for a race, and I did everything you shouldn't do before a race, but I had fun, and that's like, I was just relying on these guys to do the hard work, so I could get the glory run, basically.
Well, me and Vicky were chatting as well. We were going, okay, she's done a half marathon this year. She's 88, 87.
Yeah, and we were saying that was painful. Yeah.
And a PB 37, 10K.
Yeah, no way.
Years ago as well. So we're going, what's she able to do? What did you manage to do?
Well, I don't really know because I didn't start my watch to start with. I then did a little bit where I went wrong, and I went off way too hard. This man like sprinted into transition, and I was like, Rudy was right on my shoulder. So I was like, running scared, and I don't like running scared. And then I had the cameraman chasing me, so I was like, yes, I can do this. Went round the corner, I was like, oh my God, there's a massive hill. And then we had to do it twice, and my legs now, I can hardly walk. It's like, but yeah, the camera's following me, so I was like, I've got to look good, and try and run fast. Yeah.
You did look good, and everyone, I think you could say, again, what Daniel was saying there, everyone seemed to be having such fun, and everyone was kind of cheering, supporting you. I think you were waving everyone as well on the 10K. But Alyssa, I'll come back to you. Obviously, you started about 3 hours ago. ago now. It's been quite a long morning for you. How was it to come back up here to downtown and just watch these guys?
It was great to come back up here. I made it just in time to see Daniel coming off the bike and hand over. I don't know if they heard me cheering for them, and then I got to go change out of my wet swimsuit really quick and come down for the finish. So it's been a crazy busy morning, but it's been so much fun, and it's been awesome to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's been so awesome to watch. Well, Team Backegard, you were second today. Woo! Congratulations. We'll now let you go and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations to Team Backegard. All smiles there. They've enjoyed their efforts this morning, and rightly so. But right now we're going to start bringing up some results for you. And here are the elite men. So Jamie Riddle of South Africa in first. We saw those pictures there, followed by Eric Lagerstrom as well. And then Australia's Stephen McKenna coming home for third. Is that pretty much how you thought it would happen? I know you had your eyes on a couple of other athletes out there.
No question.
Rodrigo was one of them.
Yeah, and Rodriguez right there was fifth place. Jason West probably had the fastest run of the day, had some time to make up. I mean, that's a world-class top 10. And you take a look over these years, but Riddle getting the victory, wow.
Congratulations to him. And up with the women's results. And Victoria Lopes there, she brings it home in first. Brazilian-American, we're going to call her, Amy Sloan, and then Amelia Watkinson. A great effort there. Again, look, we got people from all over the globe that have raced here today.
The LA race is notorious for having athletes from around the world. It's done a great job for 40 years. It's done it again, and a big prize purse. These guys are taking home some good paychecks, all American dollars, so they're going to enjoy that when the day ends.
Congratulations to everyone then out of the elites that have competed here at the Herbalife24, but focusing now back on the Pro Am, and we're going to give you a little summary of how it all went down this morning as the sun rose over the hills upon Venice Beach as our CAF athletes got things started as they made their way to the water. And it was a really fun swim, and interesting to see how it all shook out, of course, Barry, because we have a lot of credentialed swimmers, but one, they were in the pool. Two, some of them were sprinters as well, and we're predicting that they might have been feeling the burn after they started to extend themselves past probably about 1,000 meters.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Chris Hammer was the first to get back into the transition zone. Heather Jackson was able to get the day started. We know eventually she had some challenges out onto the bike course. Haley Chura, Team Chura taking off.
I've got to shout out Ahalia Lettenberger. Yeah. She looked great and fantastic Phenomenal. In the water, didn't she?
Yeah, Haven Shepard had the best swim she could have ever hoped for. Says she really pushed hard the second half, and that gave her a chance for Lionel Sanders to get out on the bike sooner than he anticipated. He did not let up. 53 minutes. I think it'll probably be one of the top 2 or 3 times in the history of this bike course for 40 kilometers.
Laying down some serious watts as he churned through the tarmac of Los Angeles downtown up towards Hollywood, and then into transition to hand over to former UFC lightweight fighter Paul Felder, who posted a personal best 10K today, but told us in interview that but it was no joke, the hill that you encounter, and that was echoed as well by Heather Fell. We also see off of her shoulder Rudy Garcia-Colson. They pushed one another through this race, but Paul Felder really did stretch away the gap and the lead that was created by Lionel Sanders' efforts on the bike, and he brought it home. But later on, down the field in third, Rudy showing us what he can do over 10K rather than over the marathon distance, and just did a great job. He and Paul Felder were talking to one another before this, some fighting talk, but it was Paul Felder that brought it home for Team Sanders. He got a personal best. Maybe Lionel Sanders got a personal best on a bike as well, certainly here on the streets of LA. It would be lovely to see.
That's an all-star team right there. Big smiles, and all 3 of them I think will remember this day for a long time.
Yes, and Heather Fell came home for second place as well. She took a couple of wrong turns. She got influenced by the excitement of the day and the cameras being turned onto her, but nonetheless, Team Backegard there, all smiles. And then we saw Rudy Garcia-Colson come over the line
Well,
celebrate
Sam
with his
Long
team.
will be celebrating for sure. Look at that team. That pink, you know, it's Team Long.
Definitely what I expected it would be.
And
I
Emily
wanted to go
Gray
out
as
really
well.
Nice and smooth.
Great stuff there by our top three as we see the high-rise buildings here of LA and the results of our top three for our Herbalife24 Triathlon LA 2022 Pro Am Challenge. Team Sanders, comprising Haven Shepherd, Lionel Sanders and Paul Felder in first, followed by Team Beckergaard, Elisa Seeley, Daniel Beckergaard and Heather Fell, and then Team Long with Emily Gray on the swim, Sam Long on the bike, and Rudy Garcia-Tolson bringing it home for what has been an epic day out here in Los Angeles. Barry. You very much enjoyed talking to Willie yesterday, didn't you?
Oh, what a personality. I mean, you can just see skier, rugby player, the guy has done it all, triathlon, long distance biking. And I knew that you'd have to have two guys with a handgun to stop him from getting out onto the course. So doing a fantastic job, and he'll finish the job that he started, the 10K run.
Okay, well, there's still loads of action, of course, going on behind us. It's super loud down here at the finish line, but we do have a special guest in the middle of Vicky and I, as you can see, the CEO of PTO, Sam Renouf. I mean, Sam, before I get into this event, we're looking around. You must feel quite proud of what you've created here.
Quite proud of what we created, but more proud of the athletes, right? This is such an amazing day. The inaugural Pro Am as part of the PTO, the first of the PTO Tour this year. We're super excited. Amazing atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just talking to Daniel Beckergaard and he was like, I can't believe I just rode downtown LA on closed streets. He said this was a wow moment. So that just kind of conveys how special it is for these athletes as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's very rare to be able to have a professional triathlon downtown in a venue like LA. I heard this morning we've disrupted nearly 7 million people this morning. But we're happy to for the athletes because that's what it's all about.
It's worth it, Vic, isn't it?
Yeah, and tell us, Sam, a little bit about the PTO Tour, which is obviously kicking off in July this year. First year for it. Give us a rundown of what we're going to expect.
Yeah, so this is really triathlon coming into its finest moment as finally long-distance triathlon has a true professional tour shown all the way around the world, live on television. First stage will be in July with the Canadian Open. Then we'll head to just outside of Bratislava for the Collins Cup, and then wrap up the year in Dallas for the PTO US Open. So very excited, a real step up for the sport.
Yeah, a lot of coverage, a lot of prize money for the athletes. We're really going to reward those long course athletes properly.
As they deserve.
As they deserve, absolutely.
Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that because we were talking earlier about prize money this year, 5.2 million, and it's going up again next year as well. And the fact that you're really forward thinking in terms of females, the maternity pay and keeping their rankings. This has never been done before.
It's never been done before, but it should have been done before, right? And so we're very happy to be able to make it happen now. Yeah, look, triathlon, it's such an incredible sport, but it just hasn't lived up to its potential to date. Now, with the professionals uniting in a single organization, there's the chance to make history.
I mean, Vicky, do you wish you were taking part in this? I mean, I know I love having you down here, but I'm putting you on the spot now.
I've had a very long and happy career. I love watching the atmosphere like this at races. It does give me a bit of an itch to be out there, but I'm just delighted to have been part of this. It's been such a special event. And just before we let you go, Sam, I'd love to know from you, what was your highlight of today? What's the thing that you've loved seeing the most, do you think?
I think the highlight today, without doubt, linking CAF athletes with the PTO athletes and our special guests, a new format, just like you see in golf and tennis, where it's not always just about racing, it's about bringing incredible athletes together, and that's what we've seen today in LA.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Those CAF athletes have really stepped up today, combining them with the pros. It's been brilliant, hasn't it, Rachel?
Yeah, it's been an awesome event. Thank you so much, Sam, for helping to put it on, of course. And Sam just mentioned that the tour kicks off in Edmonton in July before going to Slovakia for the Collins Cup. That's a big one. We're calling that one of our blue ribbon events. And here's what's in store.
To the Collins Cup. The best of the best are here. Which region of the world is the best?
Standing success here.
The Collins Cup.
sport of triathlon. To Mr. Dave Scott.
We all have a healthy and fast and venomous race.
Oh no, they were fourth. You're right, they're fourth. Shall I get out of the way for this?
Well, hello then. Welcome back down here to the finish line, and let's just bring you up to speed on exactly what's been going on. We've had an awesome day, of course. We've got Team Chura right now with us, and again, guys, let's just talk you through exactly how the event unfolded today. Let's start up with you, Roderick, over here, and just talk to us about the run leg that you contested.
I mean, it was a little warm, but we knew that was coming, and it was still a good day. A lot of support out there. Everyone's having a good time. But yeah, it was fun.
I mean, Hallie, your swim leg was incredible. If you guys missed that, you were neck and neck out there, of course, with Chris Hammer, and I think no one really expected it, and you were the person who was much more direct in their swim as well. I think Chris possibly went a little bit off course, but tell me about the swim.
No, the swim was super fun. It was really fun having Chris there to I was kind of spotting him, but kind of not because he was going kind of crisscross, but it was really fun to be out there with all of them and to be right next to Chris the whole time. It was fun to have someone right there.
And I guess my other question is, being a CAF athlete, did you expect to have opportunities like this?
This was an incredible opportunity. When I heard about this and that I was invited to do this, I was just so excited. This is super amazing.
Hayley, I've got to come to you. A late addition as well, a late call-up, weren't you? But I mean, it's such a special event to be a part of.
Oh yes, I mean, I'm so excited I got to be a part of it, and after Ahalia's swim, I was like, it was so incredible, and I was just like, she gave us such a lead, and I was like, I cannot blow this. So I had probably the ride of my life, so much fun, and then handing off to Roderick and watching him run like that, it was so fun. That was one of my best races ever.
Well, that's been, I guess, the theme, hasn't it, throughout today. We heard it from Hayley and David. They're both saying how special an event this was. And I think you three agree, and Vicky, I'm sure you agree as well. Let's just kind of sum up today and what it meant for everyone involved.
I feel like today has been a real representation of people from every walk of life, from every ability, getting in there together in a mixed relay, giving their all, bringing humans together, and the atmosphere we've seen, the team camaraderie that we've seen has been amazing, and I just think it's been such a spectacle. I hope we can see this event for years to come.
And it really is the start of something special for the PTO as well. We had Sam, the CEO, he was telling us about the series where we're going next. Of course, we're going to Edmonton in July before the Collins Cup in August, then Dallas at the end of the year. I mean, Vicky, how excited are you for the rest of the season?
I think this season is absolutely going to be a first for long course athletes. Sam touched on it earlier. Proper pay, brilliant broadcasting. There's going to be some fantastic stories that come out of this year, and I just can't wait for it.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us in LA this morning. It's been so special to be a part of it, and we'll see you in July on our next event. Goodbye.
Here comes another hard charger around the bend. Let's give it up for Kid Von Wesley. Job well done. Oh, yeah, let's go, hard chargers. Almost done now. Greg Holmes finishing up his sprint triathlon. And right behind him, here comes Benjamin Braun and Andrew Rayner. Just now finishing up. We have Alex Lasani coming in. And coming in now. All right, Rigo Alcil. Job well done. That's Steve Eastman and Carolyn Carter just now coming in. Oh, let's go, let's go. Let's welcome in Amanda Quasetta and Avery Hoffman finishing up